Members, it's the appointed time and we have a quorum. Welcome to the meeting of the panel on financial affairs. Agenda item 1, information papers issued since last meeting. After the last meeting in May, 3 information papers have been issued. The details are set out on the agenda. Agenda item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. The regular meeting will be held on the 6th of July at 9 a.m. The administration suggests discussing the following items. 1. Enhancement of stamp duty relief for intra-group transfers, enhancing the real estate investment trust regime and the market conduct regime for listed collective investment schemes. 3. Proposed amendments to the securities and futures stock market listing rules. And 4. Legislative proposals to enhance the recovery process of default MPF contributions and MPF regulatory regime. Do members agree that we discuss the above 4 items in the next meeting? We all agree. Thank you. Agenda item 3, briefing by the FS on Hong Kong's latest overall economic situation. I see that the FS and the relevant government officials are here. Members who'd like to speak, please press the request to speak button. Welcome FS and the team for attending this meeting. FS, ready when you are. Thank you. Chairman, members, colleagues of the Secretariat, good morning. This morning, I, together with the government economist, will brief members on the latest economic performance and near-term outlook of Hong Kong. Since the later part of February, the eruption of Middle East conflicts, the production of energy has been affected and energy prices have surged, and there have been concerns about inflation. There has been volatility in the financial market. There is downside risks of the international economy. In April this year, IMF assumed that the Middle East conflicts would persist and that the risk would be within projection. It lowered the economic growth by 0.2%, and the inflation reached 3.12%. AI-driven technologies will bring upgrade. However, with the Middle East conflicts, if the conflicts persist, there will be continuous impact on global economy. In Q1 this year, while there were uncertainties, performance remained strong. The US and Euro area economy saw moderate growth, and with exports as well as manufacturing, there have been growth as well. In Q1 this year, the mainland saw a growth of 5% increase. April statistics also showed that economy is moving towards a good direction. With green products as well as high-tech products, exports recorded rapid growth. With complexity in the external environment, mainland economy showed resilience. Inflation remained moderate. For the first 4 months of this year, the use of external capital dropped by 10.3%. However, for high-tech industries that account for 40%, the use of external capital grew by 20.3%. This shows that the mainland is moving towards high value-added industries. In April, Politburo meeting in the mainland showed that they are going to move towards loose monetary policy, and they are going to continue to boost internal and domestic demand. The internal market is huge and there is room for coping with challenges. They are well positioned to drive economic growth. It is expected that the annual economic growth would reach 4.5 to 5%. In Europe, in Q1, economy continued to expand. The labor market remained stable. However, consumption remained cautious. Inflation grew. In April, the total USPC inflation increased from 2.9 to 3.8%. Core PCE inflation also increased to 3.3%. Both were higher than the 2% target set by the Fed Reserve. The interest rate would remain with Middle East conflicts as well as market volatility. The US Fed Reserve believed that within this year, there wouldn't be any interest rate increase. With further inflation, the interest rate might increase by 25 percentage points. As at May 29th, it is expected that by 2026, the chance of increasing the interest rate by 25 basis points would stand at 50%. In Asia, there were various extents of growth with AI-related development. Electronics and tech products saw great demand. In April, regional exports recorded growth. However, with the Middle East conflicts as well as this disruption to supply chain, the performance in manufacturing industry varied, and with energy prices surge, there were impacts as well. Against this backdrop, we performed well. In Q1, we saw a strong economic growth of 5.9%, which is a record high over the past 5 years. Exports remained strong, and there was strong domestic demand. Under seasonally adjusted analysis, there was a growth of 2.9% in the first quarter. It was the biggest growth in terms of quarterly growth over the past 5 years. External trade remained strong, and overall exports in Q1 grew by 2.3%. There was growth for 10 consecutive months. Exports of goods in various markets recorded growth as well. Exports of services in Q1 expanded steadily, and the momentum continued from Q4 2022. Inbound travel grew by 17% to 14.3 million, and it was a record high since COVID, and it drove exports of services. Private consumption expenditure grew to 4.9% in Q1. It was the fastest growth over the past 2.5 years. It showed that labor earnings continued to rise and that the market grew steadily. And we will see resumption of consumption expenditure. Retail sales grew by 12.1%. In the catering industries, the performance also improved by 1.1%. Overall investment in Q1 grew in double digit to 17.7%. It was the fastest growth over the past 2.5 years. There were active property transactions as well as procurement of machinery and equipment. In the private sector, the growth of expenditure grew significantly, representing 57.9% year-on-year. The latest statistics show that in Q2, Hong Kong's economy stayed resilient. In April, overall exports of goods accelerated by 42.9%. It is driven by AI-related goods demand. And the electronics goods also accounted for 60% increase compared to 2022. After the growth of 41.5% in Q1, in April it also grew further by 54.3%. Exports of goods to the mainland grew by 40.7%, and exports of goods to the ASEAN grew by 66.5%. Exports to other markets, including the US and Europe, also recorded growth of 37.5% as well as 24.4% respectively. Inbound tourism in April grew by 10% year-on-year. During the May 1st Golden Week, the growth recorded 8%. In the labor market, we saw improvement. After seasonal adjustment in February and April, the unemployment rate stood at 3.7% compared to 3.8% in Q4 last year. There was a slight drop. Employees' income in nominal terms in Q1 grew by 5.6% year-on-year. Inflation remained moderate. With international energy prices surge, there was growth in inflation rate. It increased from 1.3% to 1.6% in April. Energy-related and transport components stood at 1% in January and February, and it was increased to 2.3% to 3.3% in April. Other components that caused price increase saw small impact. After the eruption of Middle East conflicts, capital-related market as well as Hong Kong dollar demand remained weak. Short-term HIBORs in March saw a slight drop. Over the past month or so, HIBORs grew slightly. However, it's still lower than the levels at end 2025. Aggregate bank deposits increased by 2.5% in the first 4 months. Hong Kong dollar deposits grew by 3.2%. In terms of Hong Kong dollar interest rate, because of the negative Hong Kong dollar US dollar interest rate spread persisted and spurred carry trade selling floats, the Hong Kong dollar spot exchange rate against the US dollar weakened in the first 5 months of 2026. And the aggregate stood at about $500 million. As at 2025, because of stock market volatility, the market dropped, but it rebounded. By May, the index closed at 25,000. It was lower by 2% compared to 2025. Transactions remained active. The average turnover daily stood at about $270 billion, which is higher than the $200 billion average in 2025. For the first 4 months, the amount of funds raised through IPOs increased by 6-fold year-on-year to $151 billion, ranking first globally. Some consultant reports showed that last year, cross-boundary wealth management size in Hong Kong grew by 10.7% to 23 trillion Hong Kong dollars. We surpassed Switzerland as the top wealth management center in the world. Property market remained strong. We saw growth in transactions. In April, transaction volume reached 7,000 cases, which is a record high in 2 years. Last year, property prices grew by 3.6%. In the first 4 months this year, it grew further by 5.7%. Property rentals also increased by 4.2%. In non-residential property market, in Q1, we saw various extent of recovery. Office prices dropped by 2.9%. As for rentals, it resumed to the level in 2025. In the same period, retail shop prices dropped by 3.9%, and rentals remained at a similar level. Flatted factory space remained the same in terms of the price and rental. Moving forward, there are still uncertainties to the Middle East conflicts in terms of its development. The impact of the conflicts to Hong Kong remained limited. However, it already pushed up the international fuel prices. There are uncertainties to the deals between the US and Iran. If there are further conflicts, there will be impact to the international market, and there will be downside risks to global economic growth. However, there has been a high demand for electronic products as well as AI-related products. It is expected that it will benefit exports. At the same time, we see continuous growth in inbound tourism as well as cross-boundary financial activities with great demand for such services. Exports of services will remain stable. Also, with persistent domestic demand, the economic growth in Hong Kong will stay resilient. The economic growth in Q1 this year is higher than expected. However, with uncertainties in the external environment as well as potential risks in 2026 May, the forecast economic growth remained at 2.5 to 3.5%. International oil prices continue to grow as well as the relevant component prices will increase. However, we are a service-oriented economy. We rely less on energy. Also, with stable supply of energy from the mainland, it can help mitigate external shocks. Considering all the above factors, in May, the Hong Kong government has adjusted the inflation forecast from 1.7 to 1.8% to 2.5 to 2.6%. The government has put in place measures to mitigate the impacts on the relevant industries, and we will continue to keep an eye on the situation with uncertainties in the external market. We have the strong support from our motherland. Also, we have strong basics in our economy, and we will be able to cope with external challenges. We will continue to observe the external changes to ensure that our financial and economic systems will grow and develop steadily. That's all from my report. The government economist has prepared a PowerPoint presentation. The presentation has been circulated to members. In order to reserve more time for discussions, I suggest that the government economist will keep the PowerPoint presentation, and we are happy to listen to members' views. We will try our best to respond to members' questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Financial Secretary, for the detailed presentation. I now open the floor to members for questions and answers. We also have a number of items on the agenda today. We have quite a number of members intending to speak for this item as well. I will assign a 3-minute time limit. Let me read out the order in which members are going to speak. Mr. Tommy Chung, Mr. Chen Jinying, Mr. Sunny Tan, Mr. Rock Chan, Ms. Kamen Khan, Mr. Adrian Ho, Mr. Albert Chung, Mr. Lee, Mr. Jonathan Lamport, Mr. Alan Chan, Mr. Yu Ming, Dr. Webster and Mr. Ray Wong. Mr. Tommy Chung, thank you. Chair, thank you, Financial Secretary, for the presentation. I appreciate that we have quite good economic performance recently. We have seen in Q1 the GDP has a year-on-year increase of 5.9%. We have also a year-on-year increase of 40% for import and exports. I, on behalf of the export and import sector, would like to express appreciation for the measures implemented by the government. We have recently a visit made to Central Asia, and in fact, it is a market greatly valued by the sector in recent years. The government has provided much support. We have the Bud Fund. We also have the Digital Support Pilot Subsidy Scheme. We have, however, still some challenges in logistics and complexity with trade rules, as well as it being difficult to establish commercial networks in the relevant markets. Will the government have dedicated trade financing support for emerging markets, and will the government sign more trade facilitation agreements to help the sector enter such market more easily? It will also help mitigate risks for the sector and tap into the great potential of the emerging markets. Thank you, Chair. Financial Secretary. On a national level, in terms of the country's strategy, as well as Hong Kong making contributions to the country, the Middle Eastern and Southeast Asian markets are our important markets, especially in Southeast Asia, because they have a relatively young population. They see a rapid increase in their national income. They have great demand for quality products and services as a result. And through the Trade Development Council, the government has been working hard with organizations promoting trade and commerce initiatives. We work with the Trade Development Council. We also work with the Productivity Council. We also work with different chambers of commerce for the organization of different activities. We also encourage stakeholders from these markets to come to Hong Kong for commercial matching. We have the Financial Summit every year. We also have the Asian Financial Summit in January. We make good use of these events for commercial matching. We will provide as much support as we can to stakeholders. Thank you. Mr. Chen Chin-ying. Thank you, Chair. I have two concerns. One is inflation. The Financial Secretary already talked about the situation for inflation. Now, with the breakdown, we can see there is a 4.3% in inflation in transportation. It is probably the highest out of all categories. The Secretary said we have already adjusted our inflation expectations to 2.5% and 2.6%. But then we may see a feed-through impact of the increase in oil prices caused by the Middle Eastern conflicts. We may see an impact on livelihood or even civil servants' pay raise or pay raise in general for the business sector. With the adjusted inflation rate, has it already considered this? The second question is, we do see a growth in the economy, the property market, consumer confidence, exports, etc. But we can see in the PowerPoint presentation, the small and medium enterprise confidence index is not doing as well. Is the Financial Secretary confident that with more quarters of growth, the small and medium enterprises will be more confident? Or is it that the index is lagging behind, that it has not shown this growth in the economy? I will ask the government economist to share her observations. Thank you. Chair, thank you, Mr. Chen, for the questions. In fact, the international oil prices have already increased by 30 to 40%. We do see in the futures market in the next 1 to 2 months has seen an obvious decline. We have taken into account the increase in oil prices from early this year to now and adjusted the inflation rates to 2.5% and 2.6%. Have we taken into account other related factors, such as imports, food, and other categories? They are still at a manageable level. We will keep in close view of the situation. If the situation has surpassed our expectations, we may consider to adjust the inflation further. I think the biggest impact is with the war and what interference it will cause to the supply chain. As for small and medium enterprises, we do understand for some sectors they will have a faster recovery, some will lag behind. So for those who are lagging behind, they may not feel as good. We have tried to help by extending the SME financing guarantee scheme, for example. We have also been promoting the use of AI in different areas, including in SMEs, because this will help enhance efficiency. It is also a competitive advantage. If members have any great suggestions, if we can, we'll try to incorporate them. Thank you. Mr. Sunnington. Thank you, Chair. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Financial Secretary. And we have recently the report from BCG saying we are ranked the first in cross-boundary wealth management. It really shows our efforts. It also shows that Hong Kong is an important shelter for funds. It is also a stabilization source. If we go in this direction, should we consider expanding the whole ecosystem and capacity? We have those waiting to list. Before we only had 200 to 300. Now we have over 400. I think timing is important. How can we work together to perhaps expand the capacity of the ecosystem to really seize the opportunity that we have right now? I also want to follow up on what Mr. Chen Chunying said. The Productivity Council also has an SME index. It shows that the business environment for them is not really favorable. We have the traditional industry clusters being large employers in Hong Kong. How can we make sure we have the industries work together to provide a good environment or favorable environment for SMEs? I want to see what the Financial Secretary thinks. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sunnington, for your observations. For listing, we do note a number of companies waiting to list. We appreciate that, but we also need to make sure we hold stringent standards for listing, and the Hong Kong EX and the SFC are working together to play gatekeepers. We do attach great importance to the quality of the listed companies who are waiting to list. As for the development of financial center, cross-boundary wealth management, we indeed rank the first in the relevant report. We are not limited to this, however. We also try to develop family office business. We also see there is a global trend to transform into green initiatives. We are trying to make contributions in this regard. As for supporting SMEs, we want to provide support for SMEs to develop markets that would include financial support. We have, for example, the Bud Fund. I think we also have to understand there are challenges brought about by AI. We should try to make use of AI to empower SMEs to enhance their efficiency so that they can really catch up to the rapid changes in the consumer market. We are working with the VTC, Vocational Training Council, as well as the Productivity Council, to have different arrangements to help the relevant stakeholders. In developing new markets, the CEDB is also taking the lead to provide support. We should work together. Thank you. Mr. Rock Chen, Deputy Chairman. Thank you, Chair. As the Financial Secretary reported, for the first quarter, we have seen 5.9% economic growth. That is very good, but the Financial Secretary also said there are some downside risks to the global economy. So I want to ask the Financial Secretary, will we have specific measures in the second half of this year to really maintain the growth we have in the first half? As the financial secretary said, we are doing well in the asset markets, including stock market. We have seen the average daily turnover of the stock market being higher than last year. We have also seen multifold growth in IPO. And AI and chip related shares have seen great boosts as well in their stock prices, but Hang Seng Index is lagging behind global indices. I think one of the major reasons is that many of the shares in the Hang Seng Index are old economy shares. Will the financial secretary work with the Hang Seng Index company to really seize the opportunities of this digital AI era so that the Hang Seng Index can appropriately reflect what is growing in the new era, including the weighting? If the index is doing well, we would have many index funds or passively managed funds buying our indices. It will help us attract capital. Thank you.
FS, I thank Mr. Rock Chen for the questions. How can we sustain our momentum? We can do it on 3 fronts. We have 3 drivers. 1, export, 2nd, consumption, and 3rd, fixed investment. We saw a growth of 17.7% in terms of fixed asset. And we saw strong exports growth in AI as well as electronic products. So we will be able to maintain the momentum in terms of exports of goods and exports of services. In the later half of this year, we will see various uncertainties. However, we will remain stable in general with the concerted efforts of the SFC as well as the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, while we also work with the relevant mainland authorities to make sure that mainland leading tech companies, when they come and get listed in Hong Kong, we can offer facilitation measures to them, and we are working in this regard. Now on consumption, we're seeing positive growth in consumption as well as in the asset market. We believe that we will continue to see positive growth. In terms of growth of Hang Seng Index, if you look at the tech-related indices, the growth is way higher than Hang Seng Index alone. I think what Mr. Rock Chen said is reasonable. The Hang Seng DAX company will continue to review its composition, and we also maintain regular communications with them. Next, Ms. Carmen Khan, I thank the FS as well as the government economist for being here. Kevin Walsh, the new chairman of US Fed Reserve, said it will review the factors that may lead to inflation. Also, when they review the factors, they would look at the core indicators of inflation. So there are signs that the interest rate will be cut. So how does the SAR government view the future interest rate trends? Now I'd like to ask about AI. There are parts in your PPT about AI, and according to the government paper, we see an increase of funds raised through IPOs. For large-scale, especially AI-related enterprises, these are very attractive financing channels. The FS is chairing the Advisory Committee on Tax Policies. What strategies will you put in place to attract strategic enterprises to Hong Kong? According to this year's budget, the Advisory Committee does not aim to broaden tax base. Instead, it will focus on attracting enterprises. Say, for example, there are going to be legislations to attract Treasury corporate centers. I think these are very good examples. In terms of industry-specific enterprises, what strategies will you adopt to attract them to come? FS. In terms of the interest rate trends, the new U.S. Fed Reserve Chairman has his own views. However, according to my own observation, as well as my exchange with the business sector, I understand that inflation remains very strong in the U.S., so there is doubt in terms of how much room they have to lower the interest rate. We should not undermine the political factors because in November there will be an election in the U.S., so we will continue to observe the trend. The Hong Kong dollar is pegged with the US dollar, so our exchange rate will be affected by the performance of the US dollar. However, the movement of the US dollars and Hong Kong dollars may not exactly be the same. If you look at the previous few years, we may not drop interest rate in the same extent like that of in the US. So we'll have to take into consideration the capital in Hong Kong. There was what we called flooding in Hong Kong. That's why we lowered the interest rate to a larger extent. As I said, there is $30 to $50 billion of bank deposits in Hong Kong, and over the past few months the interest rate remained low because Hong Kong is a safe haven and there has been an influx of capital. Therefore, HIBORs remained low. So we will look at this dynamically. Overall speaking, we think that from now to the end of this year, we do not expect significant changes to the interest rate level. And we think that the rate is favorable in general to the business environment as well as the asset market. Now turning to the question about taxes. As you said, the advisory committee does not aim to broaden tax bases or increase revenue sources. Our aim is to attract businesses and capital, and we look at what kind of strategies we can adopt. We have industries with cutting edges, and within the advisory committee we will have relevant discussions about that, and where appropriate we will disclose our thoughts to members. Next, Mr. Adrian Ho. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the FS for the briefing. I support the SAR's government's work. From the statistics, I see that our economy is growing steadily and there is an upward trend in terms of the growth. I am more concerned about the employment situation of the grassroots in Hong Kong. I see that the unemployment rate of low-skilled sectors have increased slightly. For low-income households, the number of these households have increased year on year. For low-skilled workers, we have to be concerned about the unemployment situation. Inbound travelers have continued to increase. For retail sectors as well as catering sectors, they involve mostly low-skilled or low-income workers, and their unemployment situation is worrying. I want to know what measures will be put in place by the FS to help or support low-income workers. Will there be policies to help alleviate poverty? FS. On protecting or safeguarding employment of the grassroots under the Labour and Welfare Bureau, well, we have put in place various measures over the years. In the past few years, we rolled out, for example, the basic housing unit regime, and in terms of public housing supply, we also make sure that there is enough supply in the market. Also, we have rolled out various support schemes and measures, and we try our best to offer help to the grassroots, for especially the underemployed. The member mentioned the construction as well as the catering sector. Because of economic restructuring as well as changes in the asset market, these two sectors are under greater pressure. For the asset market, starting from the second half of last year, we see growth in property prices, and we have seen more active bidding of land. Previously, the property market remained sluggish, and so there was a higher unemployment rate among renovation workers. Now that the property market has rebounded, we believe there will be improvement. And also, as we put up land for sale, we will do it prudently. As for transforming the retail and catering sector, we'll have to work with the relevant industries. As mentioned, we have seen a shift in consumption patterns, and people are asking for a different experience nowadays. For restaurants that adopt the same business model as traditional Chinese restaurants, they may face tougher challenges. You see that in some districts there is an increasing number of shops or cafes with characteristics, and their businesses have been doing quite well. So we will offer support and financial assistance to the relevant industries to help them transform themselves. If the relevant sectors have any specific views, we welcome them and we will try our best to offer support to them. Next, Mr. Albert Chuang. I thank the FS for the briefing. I'm happy to see that Hong Kong's economy is growing steadily and that we are seeing positive growth. FS mentioned the drastic surge in oil prices. According to the budget, the headline inflation will be adjusted upward from 1.7 to 2.5%. Our association has conducted a survey covering 14 areas. We asked SMEs about the challenges they face, and that include surge in logistics costs as well as original and raw materials, energy prices uptick as well as shortage of energy supply. SMEs are worried that if oil prices continue to rise in the coming 3 to 5 months, it will have a huge impact on their businesses. They hope that the government will roll out tougher measures to offer support to them. The government rolled out subsidies on energy costs as well as a half-rate concessions for tunnel tolls. I want to know, on top of that, will the government put in place measures to help SMEs? Also, according to the report, we see the highest amount of funds raised through IPOs. I want to know the percentage of Middle East sovereign funds, and the percentage growth, however, only reached 38%. I want to know if the government have information about the inflow of capital from the Middle East. Also, as mentioned, we have topped the world in terms of a wealth management center. According to the government, there are 3,380 family offices in Hong Kong. After the outbreak of the Middle East conflicts, I want to know if the number has continued to grow and what measures will the government put in place to make sure that the Middle East will allocate assets in Hong Kong. FS, as mentioned by Mr. Albert Chuang under the leadership of the Chief Executive, we have rapidly rolled out subsidies for energy costs, and we will put in place this subsidy for 2 months. And I have been chairing a steering committee to keep in view the situation. And where appropriate, we will announce any measures. As for capital from the Middle East, we see a significant increase. Some said after the outbreak of the Middle East conflicts, there have been more capital coming from the Middle East, and that's true. If you look at this from a macro perspective from September 2024 to the present, there has been an increase in terms of our stock market, and the shares from Europe and the US account for 40%. As for capital from the north, it accounts for about 30%, and the rest of the capital come from Southeast Asia and the Middle East. Capital from Southeast Asia account for a substantial share, and capital from the Middle East stands at a similar level. People from the Middle East, they do businesses in a similar way like Chinese people. They want to first make friends with you, and if they feel that they are familiar with you or they are close to you, they would be willing to come and do businesses. So it takes time for them to establish connections and relationships with us. In the Middle East, at the same time, they are promoting economic restructuring as well. They do not want to solely rely on oil. So in the past, they only made investment and make financial returns. But now, apart from making investment, they want to do something more. They want to attract enterprises to go and set up factories and production lines. So they are opting for a co-investment model. In the future, there will be closer investment and trading ties between us and the Middle East, and we're going to see a two-way relationship. Some Hong Kong tech enterprises will also go to the Middle East for development.
As for family offices, we expect the figure will continue to grow. We will announce the figure every year for the public's reference. We expect those not just from Middle East or Southeast Asia coming to establish family offices. We also expect those from Europe coming here, which is interesting. They have made significant returns when they invested in Europe and the US before. Now they see great potential here. But of course, they are a bit more prudent. They do, however, understand the market here is relatively stable in the long term. Thank you. Mr. Ken Lee. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Financial Secretary. We can see great figures of the local economy. We have ranked first in IPOs. Recently, we have been working to provide employment support mostly, but from the figures, we have seen the labor force decline by 19,000 people, and those who have work has declined by 29,000. Even though we have a decline in unemployment rate, we actually have a higher number of people who are unemployed. Will we have more support measures from the government to identify those in need? Will the government encourage different bureaus, LWB, HYAB, Education Bureau, ITIB, to work together to help people find jobs, especially those not in tech or finance? Thank you. Financial Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Ken Lee. We do want to be an inclusive society. We want everyone to reap the fruits of economic growth. As I said earlier, in the economy's transformation, different sectors will be impacted differently, and different sectors would have to adjust differently. What the member talked about is impact to a large group of grassroots workers. We take several directions in providing support. We want to upskill them, especially for those who are younger, so that they can learn about technologies such as AI to do something different. We also want to equip them with different skills so that they can undergo transformation and increase their income. In terms of upskilling, the LWB is coordinating different organizations in providing relevant training. We would also have in future AI training for all. We also have different bureaus coordinating targeted measures for specific sectors. We will launch support measures as necessary, but it would require the concerted efforts of the government, the employers, specifically the business sector. Thank you. Mr. Jonathan Lamport. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Financial Secretary. I can see that the government has been working hard to promote development of the economy. We have the Chief Executive conducting a delegation visit. The Financial Secretary just came back to Hong Kong as well. I've been talking to the chambers of commerce. I think with the development of emerging markets, we should not neglect development of the European and US markets. As the financial secretary said, for the Middle Eastern market, they indeed we have to build up friendships first before we do business with them. I've been talking with some Middle Eastern friends, including some consuls, about different products and services. One of them actually asked me if there would be more Muslim-friendly products or financial products. They actually said they visited the outlying islands and they would want to have a 5-star hotel there because they like it so much. We have been working to introduce capital. Would we have more financial options for Middle Eastern friends for their choosing? I also understand the government is planning to develop Hong Kong as an international gold trading center. We have gold for commodities, but we also have silver, which is also greatly demanded for industrial purposes. I heard recently we may have a dedicated storage facility for silver that has great security in Hong Kong. If that is true, it will greatly benefit Hong Kong. So I want to ask, what is the Financial Secretary's plans for developing commodity trading and the market in general in Hong Kong? Financial Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Jonathan Lamport. We believe there's great potential for developing Muslim products, but we are also aware that our Islamic friends are very much interested in what we already have, for example, green bonds or ESG related products. For financial products, I would like to talk in particular renminbi denominated products and how we can make contributions to the country in terms of promoting the internationalization of renminbi. We have, for those selling oil to our country, they have received renminbi. They would have to think about how to use that renminbi, right? Which is why we are looking into providing more renminbi denominated products such as stocks or bonds. On top of that, it's not just about investment. They would want to store the relevant products. Before, they would store the products in the US or Europe, but now with the complex geopolitical situation, if they are sanctioned, there may be some risks. With them looking to mitigate such risks, there is potential to be tapped into by Hong Kong. So we want to have more products to attract capital. We also want them to store the products here in Hong Kong. And with the products stored in Hong Kong, we can develop derivatives. It can also complement well with bonds and stocks to have different forms of collateral. We are trying to expand the scale of such operations. We are working in such directions. As for commodities, as you know, gold is definitely our priority. This is in line with the country's strategy. With silver, I would like you to help us connect with them so that through the Oasis or Invest Hong Kong, we can provide support to help them establish operations in Hong Kong. For gold and silver, if we have to prioritize, we would definitely prioritize gold, but we do keep an open mind in relation to silver, but then we do want to determine the priority right now. Mr. Alan Chen. Thank you, Chair. I would like to first congratulate the Financial Secretary because in Q1 of this year, we have seen rapid growth in all economic indicators. For example, for goods exports, it has a quarterly increase from 15.4% to 23.7%. We have also seen fixed capital formation increase from 11.7% to 17.7%. The Financial Secretary said we would particularly focus on developing the Middle Eastern, East Asian, and Central Asian market. In the Middle East, they have a 290 million population. The average age is 29 years old. For the ASEAN, it has a similar figure. For Central Asia, they have only 81 million in population, but the average age is 27 years old. But I do have some questions with the commissioning of the 3-runway system. We do not have flights going to the second largest cities in Middle East, Central Asia, or ASEAN. Can we relax the airspace restrictions? We should not sacrifice the interests of the local economy for the benefit of a single airline. We are very slow in expanding our aviation network. With the 3-runway system in 2035, we will be able to deal with a throughput of 120 million. And right now, in 2025, it's just 60 odd million. So with the bottleneck in aviation resolved, we still have a bottleneck in terms of hotels. We will need 43,000 hotel rooms to accommodate 720 million people. I think you need to save some time for the Financial Secretary to answer your questions. Financial Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Alan Chen. We are actively looking to expand the aviation network. The TLB is exploring the different options. There are some considerations. One, it has to be on a fairness basis. They need to open up destinations to us with us opening destinations to them. We also need to consider the capacity. We have been developing long-haul flights, but we did not have as many people coming from these countries due to perhaps some misunderstanding to Hong Kong. If we can develop more destinations, for example, for main trading partners, we will see great economic benefits. the Middle East, the ASEAN markets are what we'll focus on in future. Apart from the main airlines, we will consider making use of other airlines. We need to, of course, prioritize the relevant economic benefits derived from such arrangements. We have seen the provision of hotel rooms greatly fluctuate in recent years. We had hotel room prices suffering a great decline. There was a high vacancy rate. We have converted many lots to residential uses instead. For example, the ones in Kai Tak. We do also, with that, want to provide more residential units for citizens because they would want to live in urban areas, as we would understand. Now we do provide support in conversion and revitalization of industrial buildings to hotel rooms and offices. We can perhaps expedite this. We were prudent before because as we see the economy stabilize with the confidence in property market rising, we don't want to disrupt the market. Thank you.
Mr. Yu Ming, I thank the FS for his effort, which helped improve Hong Kong's economy. We see positive growth in a lot of areas. The FS has also been working hard to go out of Hong Kong to tell good stories of the city. He has also been attracting businesses and capital. I think we must not give up. We should keep up with the effort in this regard. I am more concerned about the labor market. The overall unemployment rate has improved. However, for low-skilled sectors as well as high-skilled workers, there's been a slight increase of unemployment rate. For low-skilled sectors, they concern the grassroots. Will you consider suspending some of the labor importation schemes for low-skilled sectors? Will you do that flexibly, that is, to adjust your measures? Also, I want to know how you foresee the trend in the coming year. FS. I thank Mr. Yu Ming for the questions. On labor importation, previously we brought in imported labor for certain sectors with manpower shortage. We see a manpower crunch for certain jobs such as healthcare positions. In the catering sector, we have also brought in imported labor. Currently, we are keeping an eye on the situation. The Labor and Welfare Bureau cares about the employment situation, and the Bureau will review and deal with the situation appropriately. As mentioned, we will see positive growth in the remaining part of the year. We believe that retail and consumption will record positive growth, same for inbound tourism. Coming up, there will be some large-scale events in Hong Kong. We believe that in the labor market, we won't see a deterioration in terms of the unemployment rate. We are now working with the relevant bureaus to see how we can offer retraining to the grassroots so that those with various skills can secure a job suitable for them. Next, Dr. Webster. I thank the FS for the briefing. I I'm happy that Hong Kong has topped the world in terms of becoming the world's wealth management center. Now I'd like to first ask about inflation. The projected inflation rate has been adjusted upward, and the government made the adjustment assuming that there will be stable energy supply from the mainland and that the conflicts in the Middle East will not escalate. I see that according to the IMF, they made their forecast assuming that each barrel of oil would cost $100. The inflation pressure would be huge, and that would affect the spending power of our people. The best lending rate in Hong Kong stands at 5.5%, so the financing cost in Hong Kong is rather high. So there will be an import-based inflation in Hong Kong. I want to know how the FS view this. Second, in terms of enterprises' confidence as well as domestic recovery, for non-residential property markets as well as residential property markets, there is a huge difference between the two. On one hand, the rentals remain high, and on the other hand, the transactions are on the high side. The PMI stood at 48.6 in April, and the SMEs have remained very cautious. I want to know if the government will put in place any measures to deal with the situation. FS. On import-based inflation, as mentioned, Hong Kong is a service-oriented economy. We rely relatively less on energy, and our major source of energy supply come from the various components in the mainland. So we shouldn't be too worried about energy supply. However, it is inevitable that we will continue to see a surge in energy prices, and that would inevitably pose an impact on people's livelihood. Therefore, the government rolled out measures to mitigate the impact. We are continuing to monitor the situation, and where necessary, we would adjust the measures. Apart from energy, our major food sources come from the mainland as well, and the supply as well as the relevant prices have remained stable. So the biggest factors that would affect inflation in Hong Kong are the ones mentioned above. As for the best lending rate, well, HIBORs is also an important indicator, and HIBORs have stood at about 3%, and we believe that this rate will persist for a while. I've talked about the residential property market. As for non-residential property market, we believe that the situation has become stable for office spaces, not just on transaction, but also for rental. This is because a lot of large-scale enterprises are expanding their businesses and operations in Hong Kong, including financial institutions as well as asset management institutions. As for shop vacancy rate, it really depends on the location. We see that the drop of prices have narrowed this year, and the drop of transaction has dropped to 2%. The overall transaction level has resumed to that in 2025. So we're seeing a general rebound. If we want to see a full recovery, it may take another 1 to 2 years. However, overall speaking, we are seeing a stable development in the market. Next, Mr. Ray Wong. I thank the FS as well as the government officials for attending this meeting. We see resilience in our economy. However, SMEs are in a very challenging position. With high interest rates as well as depreciation, they're facing double pressure. As mentioned, well, the prices of flatted factory spaces dropped by about 15%, and so there's been greater pressure in mortgage, and SMEs are facing also pressure from banks for calling loans. The government has injected some $400 billion to the SME fund, and also it has rolled out Cargo X. However, we are worried that the relevant policy initiatives are lagging behind. It will take another year for Cargo X to give full play to its role. It's hard for the relevant resources to actually be channeled to the SMEs. I suggest that banks should come up with indicators. We hope that within half a year's time, the relevant customs clearance as well as logistics data could be shared with SMEs. Also, as banks approve various funds and loans, they should draw reference from data for conducting risk assessment. We should help SMEs that seek to take out loans without collaterals. FS. I thank Mr. Ray Wong for the suggestions. On HKMA's Cargo X scheme, the policy objective of this measure is to enable enterprises to take out loans based on their businesses instead of their assets. In terms of how to increase the efficiency of the scheme, we can reflect the relevant suggestions to the HKMA. The purpose is to facilitate trading for SMEs, so once they get orders, they would be able to take out loans based on the businesses they get, so that they can get the cash they need. As for the property market, we have urged the HKMA as well as the Bank Association to come up with a mechanism. For enterprises that do real businesses, we want to help them deal with liquidity issues. We want to relax the relevant measures for them. If there are any enterprises that come across any difficulties or challenges, we could provide targeted support to them. 4 other members are waiting to speak. After they have spoken, I will draw a line. Next, Mr. Duncan Chu. I thank the FS for sharing the data with us. And Hong Kong's role as a safe haven has stood out recently. The government has been working very hard. The chief executive is out for a trip, and the FS has also led a delegation to other places. And we see that many business leaders as well as ultra-high net worth individuals have visited Hong Kong to learn about the situation here. And this has been very helpful. However, some other travelers who come to Hong Kong, they are not very familiar with the situation in Hong Kong. Nowadays, if we want to promote Hong Kong, we do not simply rely on agents or intermediaries. As we promote Hong Kong to different countries, apart from doing so in summits or international conferences, do we have a broader publicity strategy? In some countries, they adopt targeted publicity strategies. For example, If we want to promote Hong Kong in Europe, should we talk to them about our green tech and green transformation? For Southeast Asian markets, should we tell them about our family offices? And for other places, we could promote our AI or stock market. So I want to know if there will be broader or more targeted publicity strategies.
Financial Secretary, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Duncan Chu, for the suggestions. I think we are working in the same direction. Through the Trade Development Council and Invest Hong Kong, we organize different publicity activities targeting different groups and their needs. As Mr. Duncan Chu said, perhaps we can enhance relevant efforts and be more targeted. Thank you. Mr. Chan Pui Leung. Thank you, Chair. We could see in Q1 of this year, the overall economic performance has been really good. I appreciate that. And private consumption expenditure, we have seen rapid growth as well, up to 4.9%. But I think the private consumption expenditure also includes rent in their calculation. We have seen in the past there is a significant increase in rents. If we deduct this component for the consumption expenditure, do we still see a significant growth? I think with private consumption expenditure, it really demonstrates citizens' confidence in the economy. So I want to clarify this. Second, for goods and service exports, we have recorded very good figures. We do see rapid changes in the geopolitical situation. We were developing the Middle Eastern market, but due to the US-Iran war, there are some changes. Now we have the chief executive leading a delegation visit to Central Asia. I think with goods and services exported as well as foreign investment, there are great political risks. Are there any measures to protect investment made in other markets with us going global? Thank you, Mr. Chan Pui Leung, for the questions. I will ask the government economists to provide a response first, and then I'll supplement her reply. Thank you. I do not have the specific figures here at the moment. I will provide reply to your questions after the meeting. But if we look at the consumer inflation in Q1, the growth in rentals is actually quite stable. But I will provide a specific reply after the meeting. Thank you. If we look at the figures for retail in April, we still see a double-digit growth. So that is very strong. For food in Q1, there's just a slight growth of 1.1%. We do see a good recovery in April. As for goods exports, we have the Export Credit Insurance Corporation providing a new product so that as much as they can, they want to cover more risk areas. Apart from the Export Credit Insurance Corporation, we also have the country's relevant authority providing support. Thank you. Mr. Holden Chow. We do see some very good figures reported by the Financial Secretary. I know during the Financial Secretary's briefing, he mentioned there is recovery in the property market. and there is a decline in the unemployment rate in the construction sector. Basically, that means construction workers are getting work. With the property market not doing well before, there was less demand for land as well as works. Now we see a recovery. Would the financial secretary consider liaising with the banking sector? For construction companies, while the situation is improving, they still have cash flow needs. Would you have regard to the cash flow situation of the construction companies, liaise with the banking sector to implement some transitional arrangements so that the construction companies can tide over the situation? Second, the overall economy is doing well, and the chairman serves the financial services sector, so I think he knows this well. We want to see some sort of feed through with the financial sector doing well. We have many IPOs. How can this be channeled to the general public or other industries so that the general public can benefit as well? I think in the short term, people understand with the Middle Eastern situation, there is an increase in oil and energy prices. Many citizens will soon be affected with the increase in electricity charges. Well, you need to leave some time for the financial secretary to answer your questions. I apologize. Thank you. Chair, thank you, Financial Secretary. All right, 2 questions. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Holden Chow. For cash flow of construction company contractors, when they are about to undertake works, they can, with their works contracts, obtain funds from banks, and banks will grant them loans if the things are in order. We will continue to work with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority to provide some sort of coordination to banks. We also want the development of the financial market to make society more inclusive. We have been doing certain things. One, we have been encouraging companies listing in Hong Kong to not just set up offices, but also perhaps set up research institutes, basically to put their R&D operations here in Hong Kong, or they can establish corporate treasury centers here, and we can provide tax concessions to them. We believe with these different arrangements, it will boost other industries, the professional services sectors. It will also create more job opportunities. The investment corporation will give a presentation after this item. They will talk about how, with companies establishing operations in Hong Kong, we are not just investing in them. We want to work together to build ecosystems, create job opportunities, and basically use finance to empower the development of the real economy. Thank you. It's now my turn to speak. With the different members' questions, I think we have talked about the different industries and the performance of Hang Seng Index. After all, we want to make sure the general public and enterprises benefit from the different opportunities. The financial secretary leads the Strategic Committee on Commodities, and I believe a meeting has been convened. We have a vibrant IPO market at the moment, but I think people also keep in view how we're doing in terms of futures and derivatives. We have many people say for futures and derivatives, hours as well as collateral or deposit arrangements are objectively lagging behind the global scene. Even in the mainland, in Zhengzhou, Dalian, Shanghai, there are diversified options. I also think we are lagging behind in terms of incentives and publicity. How can we really tap into this potential for commodities on top of metals, agricultural and energy products? Perhaps we can look into other options such as financial indices. I want to hear what the Financial Secretary thinks about this. Thank you, Chair. We already have a steering committee, as the Chairman mentioned, to lead relevant work in promoting commodities trading. Specifically for gold, Mr. Christopher Ho, the Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, is chairing a committee to look into relevant measures. We are working with Shanghai in terms of gold. As for futures and derivatives, hours, collateral arrangements, I think there's always room for discussion. But we also need to make sure we have the relevant infrastructure, for example, computer system. We can't have any errors. We need to make sure the infrastructure is catching up. As I said earlier, we are already working with Shanghai in terms of gold. We do keep an open mind, but we need to also be prudent in selecting the right partners. We will undertake such work in an orderly manner with regard to specific priorities. The development of commodities will help us develop as a financial and logistics center. It is very important. We will continue to work on this. Thank you. That's the end of the discussion of this item. Let's move on to the fourth agenda item. Before that, I would like to thank the public officers who attended the discussion of this item. I will ask the Financial Secretary to stay behind for the discussion of the fourth agenda item, briefing on the work of the Hong Kong Investment Corporation Limited. I will ask other representatives from the administration to come inside the conference room. Welcome. Those who would like to speak, please press the request to speak button. When you're ready, I welcome again the Financial Secretary and other public officers in attendance of this meeting. Financial Secretary, when you're ready, please give your presentation. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. Today, I'm here with Ms. Clara Chan, CEO of the Hong Kong Investment Corporation, to brief members on the work of the Hong Kong Investment Corporation. In October 2022, the government established the HKIC. We have the government actively taking the lead in leading market capital to strategic industries. Hong Kong IC has now invested in over 200 projects covering hard and core technologies, biotech and health tech, as well as new energy and other strategic initiatives. Over 10 of the enterprises already listed in Hong Kong. Over 30 of them are preparing to list in Hong Kong within this year. We have the relevant figures showing international capital appreciating the market sensitivity of the HKIC. And we have the rapid growth of the companies invested by HKIC consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international INT hub and a hub for high caliber talents. The core strategy for the HKIC is to empower Hong Kong. We have the HKIC having a strategic perspective. They are not looking for short-term returns. They are forward-looking to set down strategic directions for industries in Hong Kong to channel capital and social resources to specific areas. HKIC is trying to build an INT ecosystem. One, they're trying to pull capital. They are adopting an investment plus approach, trying to pull together patient capital. For an investment portfolio that mainly consists of startups, at the preliminary stage, they would not have high or good returns, but the Hong Kong IC has been working well, and in the first full year of operation, it has seen a positive IRR, which is much better than other funds. The HKIC has built a platform investing in strategic industries in Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area in general. We are making use of financial services to empower the development of new quality productive forces. We are also trying to empower industries. The HKIC acts not only as an investor, it is actively helping enterprises match markets and application scenarios and build the relevant ecosystem. For example, to help construct the RISC-V ecosystem, it has also worked with local universities in over 100 projects, basically leading in the building of a chain that goes through the government, the academia, and the research sector. International development. The HKIC leads delegation visits of enterprises in the ecosystem to ASEAN and Middle East, for example, to develop collaboration, realizing market opportunities. About 70% of HKIC's investment or empowered enterprises are commencing overseas business or have already commenced relevant business. With these three areas of work, it demonstrates that the Hong Kong IC is not just an investor. They are trying to pull together capital to empower industries and help them expand internationally. It provides comprehensive development environment for enterprises to take root in Hong Kong and really make use of their strengths, and that Hong Kong's industries can develop in a diversified manner. The HKIC's work this year focuses on 4 directions. One is to actively dovetail with the National 15 5-year plan. The HKIC is focusing on hard and core technologies, bio and health technology, new energy and green technology, 3 directions, and start from the bottom up. They practice a forward-looking approach to really seize the great potential in these technologies and lay foundations for the development of relevant ecosystems in Hong Kong. The HKIC is also taking a forward-looking perspective to develop commercial aerospace operations, as well as brain-machine interfaces. This is highly in line with the country's initiative to plan for future industries. To make use of finance and AI to develop industries and help them take root in the Greater Bay Area and help Hong Kong become the front runner in INT competition.
The HKIC sees the Northern Metropolis as a core strategic point. It seeks to dovetail with the national development. The National 15 Five-Year Plan clearly states that we have to speed up the development of the Northern Metropolis. The HKIC will work on 3 fronts. First, it will be a super connector, lining up over 100 enterprises and bring them to the Northern Metropolis. It will help pull together resources from upstream and midstream sectors. Second, it will also be a strategic point to bring in patient capital. It will channel more patient capital resources to the market. Third, it will make use of cross-boundary resources to bring in capital and talent to the Northern Metropolis so that the Northern Metropolis can be a springboard for enterprises to go global. In this year's budget, we mentioned a 3-pronged collaboration mechanism for developing the Northern Metropolis. The HKIC will work with landowners as well as enterprises to focus land resources on the development of the Northern Metropolis. The HKIC will actively contribute to the development of the Northern Metropolis so that the Northern Metropolis will become a breeding ground for innovation. Also, the HKIC will help reinforce Hong Kong's status as a financial center. With AI Plus and Finance Plus, the HKIC will help deal with new generation payment solutions, credit rating infrastructure, as well as data-driven risk management platform. All these infrastructures can help us boost our competitiveness as an international financial center. The HKIC will channel patient capital and leverage market forces and channel the resources to these sectors so that we can build state-of-the-art infrastructure to contribute to our country as a financial powerhouse. Also, the HKIC will continue to make use of patient capital to support the development of frontier technologies so that these technologies can be brought to the market from laboratories. The HKIC will focus on AI-related technology, life science technology, green tech, as well as chips, so that the resources could be used in the right area. The allocation of resources of the HKIC, that is the $62 billion, have been allocated to the right areas. As mentioned in my budget, the HKIC will prudently make judgments and make use of the market so that it will invest in strategic and key areas. It will make sure that these investments will bring the greatest financial returns for Hong Kong. At the same time, in order to tie in with our strategy to internationalize RMB, we will allocate part of the resources to support Chinese tech enterprises to invest in venture funds that help promote RMB internationalization. We will disclose the relevant details where appropriate. The HKIC will continue to make use of patient capital to turn Hong Kong into a core patient capital hub. We will contribute to our country through HKIC's effort. Now I will invite Ms. Clara Chan to give members a PowerPoint presentation. I think in the interest of time, if Ms. Clara Chan is to give a PowerPoint presentation, she'll have to be very brief. Please try to condense your PowerPoint presentation into 2 or 3 minutes. Thank you. Chairman, members, I will briefly talk about the progress of the HKIC's work. There are 3 parts to it. The first part will talk about the background of the HKIC. Second, I'll talk about the work progress of the HKIC. And third, I'll talk about the future direction. First, the HKIC is a wholly owned corporation of the SAR government. On one hand, we strive to gain financial returns, and on the other, we strive to inject impetus to Hong Kong's economy. Under the Investment Plus approach, we try to increase value of our resources. That is, we make use of various resources to make investments. At the same time, we strive to increase the value of our resources so as to help various enterprises to go global. Pages 4 and 5 speak about our investment portfolio. We value growth stage enterprises, and this is in line with our national strategies on promoting new productive forces. We want to incubate startups. On this slide, you see statistics from the 2024 annual report. We will soon publish the 2025 report. Overall speaking, we will see results in growing the total assets. Slide 7 is about our contribution. Our partners as well as investee companies have been renting office spaces in Hong Kong, and we've been helping enterprises to go global. And this sums up the contribution we made. And slide 10 summarizes our strategic progress in various areas. We've invested in over 200 projects, and here are some examples of the projects we invested. And this shows that we invest in up, mid, and downstream sectors in AI. Among the 200 companies we invested in, over 10 of them have been listed in Hong Kong, and over 30 of these companies have applied to be listed in Hong Kong in 2026. Slides 11 and 12 talk about how we build the ecosystem. We build platforms in Hong Kong, on the mainland, and overseas. Apart from taking part in international events, we seek to tell good stories of Hong Kong to attract capital and talent. We focus on contributing to local ecosystem through funds established together with universities. We cultivate talent as well as homegrown companies. Under the CEIS, we have appointed 14 fund management companies, and they are all rooted in Hong Kong. 9 of them are homegrown companies. Moving forward, we will continue to strengthen our work in this regard. The last slide is about our future work focus. We will continue to scale in the 3 investment themes and relevant sectors while seizing cross-domain application opportunities. We will continue to adopt the dual engine of Finance Plus and AI Plus to build the ecosystem. As the FS said, we will continue to adopt a breakthrough mindset and innovative models to tie in with the government's policies, including those for developing the Northern Metropolis. Thank you. Thank you. I will now open the floor for questions. I'll give each member 3 minutes, including questions and answers. I will read out the lineup. Mr. Ray Wong, Ms. Carmen Khan, Mr. Tommy Chong, Mr. Duncan Chu, Mr. Chen Pui Leung, Mr. Adrian Ho, Mr. Ronick Chan, Mr. Rock Chan, Deputy Chair. Dr. Webster, Mr. Alan Chen, Mr. Albert Chuang, and Mr. Yu Ming. Mr. Ray Wong, please. Thank you, Chairman. I would like to first acknowledge the effort made by the HKIC. For every $1 it invests, it can bring about $8 of returns, and this deserves our commendation. The government is taking the infrastructure-led approach. I suggest that the HKIC dovetail with the National 15 Five-Year Plan. It should adopt innovative models. I have the following two suggestions. First, local companies only account for 28% of the HKIC's investment portfolio. For early startup projects, the percentage is low in the HKIC's portfolio. There should be hard indicators requiring investee companies to deploy advanced infrastructure or production lines in the northern metropolis to safeguard local employment. Second, the CEIS has brought in $7 billion of capital. The HKIC have appointed 14 fund management companies to make investments in, for example, low-altitude economy and Gerian tech. This is not enough. I hope the government will coordinate the efforts and test out application scenarios. Resources should be allocated to open up the relevant market to complete the ecosystem. CEO, thank you. Like DF has said, we will fully cooperate with the government in its policy-making efforts. We will also tie in with the National 15 Five-Year Plan as well as the overall national strategy. In terms of our investment, for early-stage enterprises, that is those in round A or angel investment, we invest in them, and also we invest in round C investment enterprises. About 70% of our capital are invested in these early stage enterprises. As for enterprises in Hong Kong, if you look at our statistics, about 28% of the companies we invest in are from Hong Kong. However, 38% of the companies we invest in are in the Greater Bay Area. They are all related to Hong Kong. If you include the 20% of enterprises in the GBA, Hong Kong enterprises actually account for 40% of our investment. We have to leverage our strengths, and we have to help talent go global. Like I said, we invest in AI large model as well as midstream sectors such as those engaged in cloud computing. And we also invest in enterprises engaging in brain-machine interface. The government encourages this investment model. There are enterprises that want to go global and promote their products overseas. And for enterprises whose products are procured by the government, I think they deserve the investment. Ms. Carmen Khan, the initial asset of the HKIC stand at $62 billion. I see that the HKIC has done a lot. According to the report, in October 2025, it had invested in 150 projects. Now the number stands at 200 projects. So I see that you have expedited your effort. In terms of allocating resources and injecting capital, what are the thoughts of the government? Would the Northern Metropolis or the National 15 Five-Year Plan be part of the consideration? So my first question is about capital injection. Second, I welcome this report from the HKIC. I see that in end 2025 there was an annual report on the work in 2024, and are you going to publish a report in end 2026 to report on your work in 2025? Will you release this kind of report more frequently so that the public can have a better understanding of your deployment strategies?
Financial Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Khan, for the questions. On the investment made by the government, we have regard to the resources that the government has. We do have significant reserves. We already have the future fund. We have investment made by the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. We have quite good returns, but these would be financial investments. How can we transform that to benefit society in the long term? I will let the Hong Kong IC representative complement my answers, but basically we are focusing on investments on long-term competitiveness to build an INT ecosystem and to create job opportunities. It will help us create a favorable environment for attraction of enterprises. I think such work is meaningful. As for the form and the amount, we will make reports to the LegCo in due course. With annual reports being made, we believe this is appropriate. And actually, through other occasions, they can showcase to people what they're working on. And if we have activities, we welcome LegCo members to attend. Thank you. Mr. Tommy Chung. Thank you, Chair. The Hong Kong IC has managed assets $6.2 billion in 2022, and now March 2026 we have up to $64 billion. We have total returns being 3%. So every year we have a return of approximately 1%. 9% of the investments are in early stage investments. We don't see significant returns with 1% return every year. Can you talk about what the challenges are? When we'll see significant returns? How many years after this we'll see such significant returns? And is there a cap for how much we're investing in each firm? Also, in the $64 billion, how much of that is in cash? Thank you. Financial Secretary, thank you, Mr. Chung, for the questions. We actually have a board in the Hong Kong IC that is chaired by me. We have also representatives from different bureaus. We have in particular the Health Bureau representative on the board because one of the core areas we're focusing on is biotech and health technology. We also have some experts from the outside. We have a Professor Shum in health technology as well as Mr. Chen, Professor Chen. We also have experts from the legal sector such as James Lam. We have a board that has diversified talents. I will ask Ms. Clara Chen to provide more details in due course. Before I invite her to speak, let me emphasize that the mission of the HKIC is twofold. One, it is helping the government attract enterprises and investment and build up ecosystems to enhance Hong Kong's competitiveness in the long term. It can make our economy more diversified and more resilient. That's the first target. The second target is that we will achieve returns with reference to the relevant investment risks because many of the projects will be early stage or growth stage projects. Thank you. I'll now ask Ms. Clara Chan to supplement my reply. Thank you. We have the total assets under management of the HKIC $64 billion, including an investment income of $2.3 billion. This is what is said in the 2024 annual report. We were investing in early stage and growth stage projects mostly. We are quite prudent. We do undertake a milestone approach in investment. We will invest in the smaller startups, and as we will make a smaller investment once we have become investors of the companies. We will set some milestones. If they have met these milestones, we will top up our investments. So you can see at the end of 2024, with the investment income being $2.3 billion, we were only investing less than 1/5 of the capital of $62 billion. But then we have invested significantly more after that because the relevant milestones were met. As the financial secretary said, the first year of operation for the corporation was 2024, but we have already gone past the stage where the J curves of the startups that had a negative growth. So we have already passed that. At the end of 2025, we will have the 2025 report published at the end of June or early July this year. You will see the overall scale of the assets under management as well as the returns have significant increase. And in IRR in the 2025 report, it would already be double digit, as you will see in the report in due course. As the financial secretary said, we have two targets. We are very prudent. We do ask our partners and the enterprises to make contributions to Hong Kong. We ask them to set up regional headquarters or some sort of R&D institutes or manufacturing centers in Hong Kong. And you may have heard some enterprises originally wanted to list in London, but in the end they chose to list in Hong Kong. We hope to make contributions to the real economy and society in general. Thank you. Mr. Duncan Chu, thank you, Chair. I would first like to declare I am a shareholder of the Hong Kong Investment Corporation. I would first like to express my recognition of how Hong Kong IC has been quite successful in attracting enterprises and technologies to Hong Kong. That has greatly boosted the R&D industry in Hong Kong and the development of technology. The specific areas mentioned are major development directions of the city. We have also Hong Kong supporting development of Web3 actively, but then we already have $50 million from Cyberport supporting Web3 startups, but it's almost used up. We have quite a number of funds and enterprises working in Web3 wanting to come to Hong Kong, but Hong Kong IC is not investing much in Web3 projects. And the funds in Hong Kong are not really investing in Web3 either. Since we are actively promoting the use of Web3 and digital assets, would the Hong Kong IC consider investing in these projects to attract more relevant investment to Hong Kong? Thank you. I'll ask Ms. Clara Chan to answer relevant questions. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, member, for the questions. The HKIC was established at the end of 2022, focusing on investing in three areas: hard and core technology, AI, and then biotechnology and health technology, as well as new energy technology. We're investing in these areas because we want to leverage on our strengths and consolidate resources upstream, midstream, and downstream. And as the financial secretary said, we will try to work with the GBA cities in terms of Web3 or financial infrastructure. At an appropriate timing, we will create an environment with the elite teams to deepen such work. We are focusing first on hard and core technologies as well as live technology because we want to empower the industries with AI. Development in AI, it's not just about the AI industry, it is about upgrading and transforming other industries. So we would first focus on these 3 areas, but we keep an open mind to other industries. Mr. Chen Puilang, thank you. Chair, I can see the HKIC has a positive return in the first year. I appreciate that. I can see we now have mature stage and growth stage projects composing 90% of the projects invested. It will really help us achieve positive return in the future. Right now, we are investing our 9% of our capital in early stage projects. Can we make adjustments in future because we do want to nurture enterprises with great potential? And Hong Kong IC can play a great role in this. What is the future investment strategy of the Hong Kong IC? For the 200-odd projects, can you tell us, for the investment income of $2.3 billion, which enterprises are incurring a positive return in the specific areas? Ms. Clara Chen. Thank you. Chair, thank you. Member. We expect our strategy to focus on early stage and growth stage projects. It's coming from the perspective of financial returns as well as risks. They are different from mature stage projects, and Hong Kong IC is trying to have these enterprises make contributions to Hong Kong. So we want to facilitate their growth. We provide capital to them, but we also help them upgrade and transform and help their services or products go global to build a closer partnership with them. We want them to be committed to making contributions to Hong Kong with our support. So on top of financial returns, we are considering strategically, and which is why we are focusing on early and mature stage, growth stage projects.
I mentioned $30 billion, and that reflects the figures in 2024. As for the figures in 2025, we will announce them later, and those figures reflect growth in various areas. For example, we invest in various enterprises. We also have brought in overseas as well as regional capital. This kind of pension capital as well as sovereign funds can help us invest in other markets. Say, an enterprise may take 5 to 8 years to enter a mature phase, but because of our allocation of resources, they grow very rapidly. Within just a few years' time after our establishment, we have already invested in 10 enterprises which have been listed in Hong Kong, and another 30 of them are going to be listed in Hong Kong later this year. So with various support, they grow very rapidly. Mr. Adrian Ho. First, I would like to thank the HKIC for their dedication, and I have been supporting their work. I have the following questions. The HKIC is anchored in patient capital. Its investment vision may not be the same as other ordinary funds. So I'd like to ask the HKIC about its exit strategies of the projects they invest in. Also, the FS said every $1 invested by the HKIC, $8 could be brought in as financial returns. So I'd like to ask if there are examples showing how you bring in the $8 of financial returns. That is how you came up with this estimate. You said the HKIC invest in $1 and other companies invest in $8 or can bring in $8 of returns. So what kind of capital or funds are you talking about for the $8? And are they all willing to make co-investment with the HKIC? Well, perhaps Mr. Adrian Ho, you should pause here. Ms. Chen, on our thoughts on exit strategies. We invest in various areas and we have different considerations as we make investment in different areas. Patient capital compared to passive funds or passive capital, we can hold them for a longer time. Like I said, we make investment in various areas. We make investment in up, mid, and downstream sectors. And there are various projects that we invest in. For example, we invest in an enterprise in an upstream sector. The enterprise may engage in AI large model, and this kind of model could be applied in different sectors of society. Same for brain-machine interface. And for this kind of enterprises, we hold the capital for a longer time. As for other enterprises, well, should there be an exit strategies? Not necessarily. We discussed with various enterprises about their plans, and they appreciate the advantages and strengths of Hong Kong. Some enterprises told us that after getting the investment from the HKIC, they are confident that they can take root in Hong Kong. They will stay here for at least 2 years and they will help incubate other enterprises. We hope that these enterprises can stay in Hong Kong and continue to contribute to Hong Kong. As for the second question, for every $1 we invest in, we bring in $8 of returns. Where do these $8 come from? They come from international market investors, including sovereign funds, pension funds, university funds from other regions or places. The $8 of returns go directly to the HKIC, and that is a recognition to Hong Kong brands. These institutions and organizations, they make the investments not just for contributing to Hong Kong. These funds, institutions, and organizations see that we have been investing in startups and other enterprises. They see the potential of these enterprises and startups. So the $8 of returns are real investment, and also it implies our confidence in local enterprises. Next, Mr. Ronick Chen. I see that the HKIC invest in 4 major areas. Currently, we attach a lot of importance to the Northern Metropolis project. Will you, apart from the 4 areas, dedicate your investment to a new area known as the Northern Metropolis Development? You may call it the Northern Metropolis Fund. Would you consider that? Also, the FS said the HKIC wants to attract capital, patient capital for financial infrastructure. I welcome that idea. However, I see that you focused on mostly core and hard technologies. There isn't a dedicated area or theme known as financial infrastructure. Will you open up a new area or classification so that we know how much you've invested in financial infrastructure. Also, of the 46% of projects you invest in, some of them are from the GBA, and the rest of the 10% is from other places. I see that life and health, tech, green tech, they are being developed very rapidly in the Pearl Delta River region. So will you invest more in that region in the future? FS. There's no doubt that the HKIC is making a lot of contribution to the Northern Metropolis project. Within the Northern Metropolis, life and health, science and technology is one key area, advanced manufacturing as well. And a lot of the key areas that the HKIC focus on have to do with the development of the Northern Metropolis. So there's no doubt that the HKIC will focus in investment on the Northern Metropolis. It's just that we haven't opened up an area or specifically on this yet. As for investment in financial infrastructure, moving forward from the perspective of financial security and financial development, financial infrastructure is definitely going to be an important area. We will look at how big a room we have in this area. There are many private financial institutions in this area, as well as startups. In what areas that we require the intervention of the government? What should be the role of the government? Should we intervene from the perspective of ensuring financial safety and financial infrastructure? We may do so. Now, turning to the Greater Bay Area, we are part of the GBA. It is also an important strategic point of our country. But the member made a right point. In Hangzhou, as well as in Yangtze Delta River region, it is an important area. We want to make use of the ecosystem there to empower Hong Kong. For example, should we bring in enterprises from that region? And should we go global together with the enterprises there? We will consider this. Indeed, Ms. Chen has made a visit to the region. We will make sure that we put in place a comprehensive strategy for areas that fall under the national strategy and those that can add value. We will definitely invest in those areas. Mr. Rock Chen, I congratulate the CEO and the FS. Within 2 years' time after its establishment, the HKIC has yielded great results, and this is hard to come by. My first question is this. FS mentioned in his blog yesterday that it will set up a venture capital fund for promoting RMB internationalization. Will that be managed by the HKIC, and will the HKIC abide by the same vision if it is to manage the venture capital fund? It is great that the HKIC is going global with the international market. There's the Trade Development Council, Invest Hong Kong, as well as the HKMA. So what functions do the HKIC serve that are different from these departments? FS. Our view is that the HKIC is in the same team with these departments. Where appropriate, the HKIC join the same events and activities with these departments. For example, Oasis first reach out to a client or an enterprise, and if it is of the view that the enterprise can contribute to Hong Kong, and that during the discussion between Oasis and the enterprise, it is identified that the enterprise want to make investments in Hong Kong, then Oasis help line up the enterprise and the HKIC. As for RMB internationalization, our thought is this. There are more RMBs in offshore markets, so how can we bring in these offshore RMBs to benefit our development? Those who hold offshore RMBs may not want to only make onshore investments. They may want to make sure liquidity. So the HKIC could take the lead to support these investors. The HKIC adopts the same model as we do. It's just that they can pull together more resources.
Dr. Webster, thank you. Chair, I want to ask about some non-financial information. According to the presentation slides, we have other benefits such as renting of office spaces, creating job opportunities, and registration of IP. Can we have more quantifiable indicators on the benefits generated for the city? How many of the job opportunities are, for example, creating high value, and will we be able to form an IP industrial chain? In 2024, we have a $2.25 billion profit. It's just 3.5% return, but I also understand with patient capital, the returns will not be seen after approximately 10 years. Now the report is under 4400. It's not a legally audited report. Will we have the 2025 annual report generated in a legally recognized format? Thank you. I'll ask Ms. Clara Chen to answer relevant questions. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member. I'll answer the second question first. We have data quoted by the member being figures from the 2024 report, and these are figures that have undergone external audits by a consultant. We have invested only less than 1/5 of the capital then, that is $62 billion in projects. So for the first few years, we do not have the J curve. We actually see positive returns. We will soon report on our performance in 2025. Please look forward to it. As for real economy contributions, for example, renting of office spaces and creation of job opportunities, there is an important consideration. Say for life technology and new energy technology, there are high growth, high impact initiatives. And under these categories, the enterprises we selected, we have some objective performance indicators for them. We ask the enterprises not just look to achieve their own successes. We ask them to empower Hong Kong and other industries so that they can upgrade and transform together. We hope the outcomes are not only reflected in the figures. We want the enterprises to work with universities and institutions and industrial organizations to make contributions to the real economy and society of Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Alan Chan, I think establishing the Hong Kong IC in 2022 was right, because the fourth industrial revolution, as understood by the world, started in 2022, and we are investing through the Hong Kong IC into the specific industries. I appreciate that. I do support making injections to the Hong Kong IC. As I said, we are undergoing the fourth industrial revolution. Every government is borrowing money to invest in something. We have great amount of capital right now, and not to mention we are only investing a small part of the $62 billion capital we have. With investments, we have, for the fourth industrial revolution, we have AI, biotech, new energy, and C in particular would be quantum computing and communication. We basically have the ABCDE industries, but I would like to focus on C in particular. Hefei in the country has made a significant breakthrough in recent years. Can we work with the country to help them go global? Quantum communication, the country is ranked first in the world. We are also ranked first in satellite technology. Can we work with Hefei and the country in general to set up a high-end manufacturing plant in Hong Kong? High-end manufacturing will bring about more working population to Hong Kong. My second question is, we do know there is a global trend to use AI in the world. There are some physical restrictions for the manufacturing of high-end chips. We will still see it being in a growth stage in the next 10 years. Will we please be brief with your second question? You need to leave some time for them to answer your questions. All right, can we have them set up operations in the northern metropolis and lower the risks? I think they will answer 2 questions for now because we don't have time. Thank you. I'll ask Ms. Clara Chan to answer the relevant questions. Thank you, member, for the questions. For different areas that the country excels in, for example, quantum computing, we welcome relevant projects and investments. We are actively reaching out to some elite teams in specific areas. When we talked about investing in AI and large language model, we have already invested in some of the enterprises. And when we started talking about embodied AI, we already invested in embodied AI enterprises in Beijing, Guangzhou, and Shanghai. And with people now talking about aerospace operations, we have already invested in some aerospace enterprises. In terms of chips, it is a hard and core technology, and with the relative positioning is somewhat different. With us trying to encourage them to establish operations in Northern Metropolis, we also look into other options in terms of chip design. We also look into RISC-V. What RISC-V means is an open source chip design. We are not only investing in the relevant enterprises, we are trying to set the standards. We have mass production and applied first to a chip that makes use of RISC-V infrastructure. We also encourage enterprises to set up with the City University a relevant exploration center. We want to not only achieve investment returns, but to make contributions to the real economy and the construction of an ecosystem in Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Ewing. Thank you, Chair. The Hong Kong IC has now seen double-digit growth, and we have a catalytic effect. With each dollar we have attracted 8 Hong Kong dollars from the international market. But I think we need to understand that there are also risks with enterprises. For example, we have been talking about an AI bubble, or we have a potential debt crisis in the horizon. Do we have some contingency plans in response to the potential crises? Thank you. Ms. Clara Chen. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member. For all investments, including those in AI, we review the teams as well as the projects. We come from a market investor perspective in doing so. We have international capital as well. They are believing in the brand of Hong Kong IC. We are striking a good balance between taking risks and making investments. We have upstream, midstream, and downstream enterprises. We attach great importance to upstream enterprises with AI and large models developments. They will benefit mid and downstream enterprises. It can empower in the end the whole industrial chain and the real economy. We can really leverage on our strengths to make breakthroughs and innovate. The country's electric vehicles are very competitive, but then there is fierce competition. And when we looked to invest in new energy, we did not invest in any EV enterprises. We want to leverage on our strengths in green energy. So instead, we invested in a company developing solutions and infrastructure for EVs, and we helped it develop the Southeast Asian market. So in Thailand and other places, when they have more EVs, they need such infrastructure. It will also facilitate green transformation of those places. And when they purchase EVs, they would often purchase the country's EVs. This is a strategic perspective to empower different industries. For risk management, I would like to give an answer here, as another member also asked about this. On the board of the Hong Kong IC, with the asset allocation, we have set an approximate cap for the different categories of investments, and for individual enterprises, how much we're investing in each enterprise. It requires approval from the board. There's also a cap. This should prevent the concentration risk. Thank you. Mr. Holden Chow. Thank you, Chair. I can see the Hong Kong IC's paper as well as the background brief prepared by the Electrical Secretariat. Some great results achieved by the Hong Kong IC. We do have a catalytic effect. We see in April a paper provided by the Electrical Secretariat. We have seen some 6,400 job opportunities created. I think that's good. I want the Hong Kong IC to keep up the good work. I do have some questions. During the discussion of this item, we have talked about the importance of having adequate risk assessments. We also need to invest in enterprises that benefit Hong Kong in the long run. For the enterprises in which Hong Kong IC invested in, we are helping them go global. When Hong Kong IC helps them go global, can we nurture the brand of the Hong Kong IC as well? We want to have some sort of added benefit that people see with the backing of Hong Kong IC. People have greater confidence in the enterprises. So I want to ask, in terms of going global, what is happening? Also, we're taking a long-term perspective, and I believe you said earlier you would have assessments at different stages, but do you have a mechanism should there be some sort of crisis, how you're going to deal with this? Thank you. Financial Secretary? Oh, Ms. Clara Chen. Thank you. Chair. how can we provide concrete support to enterprises in going global? With capital support, we have that. But on top of that, we also have capital from sovereign funds and retirement funds. They have a long history. And with the backing of Hong Kong IC, we have a peer-to-peer communication. And it is very easy for us to get in touch with those in charge of such funds with this. And this is how we're able to manage, how we're able to create a catalytic effect. Having $1 attract $8 of international investment. With organizations in different countries and regions, they want to invest in INT investment because it will facilitate early application of technology in these places. They want to be early adopters, and we can help match these investors with enterprises. For the tech companies, they may have some really good products and services, and they may be limited to the research stage. We can help them commercialize and market such products and services as we have the experience. We believe with different enterprises after listing and at different stages, perhaps they can share the experiences with the market. For different enterprises and projects, as the financial secretary said, we have a stringent risk assessment mechanism. We have 4 departments in the Hong Kong IC. One of them is on risk management. They operate independently. The department making investments will recommend certain projects. The risk management section will operate independently. Just like other sovereign funds and long-term investors, we also engage specific organizations such as auditors and consultants, for example, lawyers, to review their specific risks. Investments come with risks, of course. We will be very prudent when investing in early stage and growth stage enterprises. Even though we may have identified great prospects of the enterprises, we try to make a small investment early on, and once we're in the companies, we can identify the growth path. We add our bets. I think this is how we can practice pragmatic risk management.
Many startups and tech enterprises are great in their own areas and fields. However, management of capital or risks is another area. So we invite representatives from different areas to join the board so that we can leverage their expertise and knowledge. We are enriching our list in hopes that we can identify the right talent to join the board. Professor Priscilla Leung, thank you, Chairman. Congratulations to the HKIC. It has earned some $2 billion so far. At the beginning of the current term government, we suggested to the chief executive to learn from the Singapore Temasek. Now, with the establishment of the HKIC, we're of course happy. However, Singapore Temasek had $2.5 trillion as an initial asset, but the HKIC only has $62 billion. Well, if you look at the long run, well, of course, Singapore is one of our competitors. In the mainland, we were told by professors from Tsinghua University that in half a year's time, the government allocated $10 million to them. I'm happy to see that there are 100 projects that you work with. work on with universities in Hong Kong. Now, I'd like to know if you have been making use of Raise Plus, because we have allocated $10 billion to local universities with potential. Second, I see that you have been investing in technology areas, and you cover commercial aerospace as well as green finance. We have to work hard on developing green finance and technologies. Do we have enough manpower to assess these tech enterprises? From the government, we do not have enough talent to make the relevant assessment. On aerospace, well, I understand that the Polytechnic University has talent. I want to know if you have enough manpower. Ms. Chen, the government, together with the relevant policy bureaus and the liquidity pool, we have been working very closely with them, but different departments and different funds have their own positionings. We want to create synergy, and we want to avoid any duplication or overlapping. In terms of our partnering with universities, well, thanks to the universities, through our passive funds and capital, we've been able to work with local universities to help set up laboratories, for example. For new areas, the HKIC has been recruiting talent from the market, and so far the talents that we've been able to recruit come from organizations, tertiary institutions, or private organizations. We invest in new areas such as AI, and internally this is a new area for us. We have an internal team to assess the relevant enterprises, and based on the nature of various enterprises that we invest in, we entrust consultants to help make the assessment, and this practice is the same as that used by international sovereign funds or organizations. We hope that by investing in these frontier projects, we can help them transform their outcomes and that they will be able to contribute to the economy of Hong Kong. For aerospace as well as brain-machine interface, these are very specialized areas. There are experts in local tertiary institutions, and so we reach out to these experts and institutions for strategic collaboration. In this regard, we will continue to deepen our efforts. Yes, FS? Members have learned about the working model of the HKIC, and I know you are willing to support the work of the HKIC. We will report the relevant details later. I'd like to spend 1 minute to talk about our views. The CEIS is a very successful scheme, and investors make $3 million of investment, and the capital goes to the HKIC. I know that the HKIC have made a lot of progress since its initial stage, and you have helped driven a lot of businesses in Hong Kong, and there are great enhancement measures that you have put in place. I just hope that you can share more information with the public in the course of your business. I know that you're not investing in traditional financial products and that you won't be able to generate monthly statements. However, I hope that if you make new investment, you will be able to share the information with the investors so as to help boost their confidence. The HKIC has been making success, and I hope that you can share this information with investors under the CEIS. That would be very helpful. Thanks again to the HKIC and the FS for attending this meeting. Chairman, we have heard your views. Thank you. Now we move on to agenda item 5. Proposed regulatory regimes for virtual asset dealing, custodian, advisory, and management service providers. I now invite the government officials as well as the relevant representatives to join us. Members who'd like to speak, please press the Request to Speak button.
我哋歡迎財經事務及
Let's welcome representatives from the FSTB as well as the SFC to join the meeting. I'll first invite Acting Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, Mr. Joseph Chen, to give us an opening remark. In order to reserve time for discussion, please be brief. Chairman, members, good morning. Today, together with representatives from the SFC, I brief members on the proposed regulatory regimes for virtual asset dealing, custodian, advisory, and management service providers. In December 2022, the government released the first policy statement. Since then, we've been stabilizing the development of digital assets in Hong Kong. Last June, we released the policy statement 2.0 to build a trusted and innovative ecosystem of digital assets in Hong Kong. After a few years of concerted efforts between the government and the sector, we have gained international recognition. The Cyberport earlier established a base for Web3, and it has pulled together 310 Web3 companies. Also, according to the latest Global Center Index, Hong Kong tops the world in terms of its ranking in fintech. In 2023 June, we established the VA trading platform licensing regime. There are currently 13 such trading platforms. According to the objectives of the policy statement 2.0, the regulatory regime for stablecoin issuers have also been established, and currently we have granted 2 licenses under this regime. Moving forward, we want to propose a regulatory regime for VA dealing, custodian, advisory, and management service providers so that we can cover the entire digital asset ecosystem and provide clear direction for the sectors so as to build a reliable and sustainable system like that for traditional financial products. We have already conducted a public consultation on the proposed regime, and we have published the relevant outcomes. Based on the feedback we have collected, we will, based on the same activity, same risks, same regulation, take forward the regime. Anyone that carry on business and provide VA advisory custodian services, unless they get the exemption, they have to get a license and registration from the SFC. For stored value facility providers, they'll also have to obtain a registration from the SFC if they carry on a business in Hong Kong. As for the advisory and management service providers regime, the regime will be consistent with Type 1 and Type 4 as well as Type 9 regulated activities under the SFC. As for custodian service providers, the regime will focus on the relevant risks of custodian services. We hope to enhance protection on client asset In terms of regulation, like the existing VA trading platform licensing regime, VA service providers or licensees have to abide by the fit and proper principle. They have to properly safekeep client information, and they have to also abide by stringent standards in terms of disclosure. The proposed regime suggests that for those who get a license from the SFC, they can provide services. Otherwise, they won't be able to publicize their services in Hong Kong in order to protect investors. The penalty proposed is the same as that under the VA trading platform license regime to ensure fairness. We want to ensure clarity, and we do not propose to impose a transitional period. We will see how much time the market needs and come up with an appropriate commencement date for the proposed regime. For those who are interested in providing the relevant services, they should reach out to the regulators as soon as possible so that they can kickstart the licensing or registration process soon. We're currently drafting the bill. We hope to introduce the bill into LegCo within this year. We're happy to take members' questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I now open the floor to members for questions. I'll assign a 3-minute time limit just like before. Let me read out the order in which members are going to speak. Mr. Chan Chen-ying, Ms. Carmen Khan, Mr. Wei Wong, Mr. Duncan Chiu, Mr. Adrian Ho, Mr. Holden Chow, and Mr. Alan Chen. Mr. Chan Chen-ying. Thank you, Chair. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority issued 2 stablecoin issuer licenses in April this year. We believe other banks will have custodian or management services in future. I believe with those who have stablecoin licenses, they will receive an exemption for trading and custodian services. But what is the scope exactly? Can you clarify this? If we have unclear scope, the SFC may be regulating certain aspects with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority managing other aspects. I want to seek clarification from the administration on this. We also have some service providers providing advisory services. We have many influencers in the financial sector. I believe a previous response from the administration is if they are providing advice to the public with compensation in relation to digital assets, they will have to be licensed. I don't think in particular we have the administration mention financial influencers on this occasion, but will there be a gray area where financial influencers are receiving compensation, but the compensation is not exactly clearly defined? It will cause some confusion in the scope of regulation. Thank you. Acting Secretary, thank you. There are 2 questions. The cooperation between Hong Kong Monetary Authority and the SFC and the specific exemptions, as well as financial influencers and the definition of them receiving compensation. Before I let the relevant representatives provide specific answers, I would first like to say that we have different financial activities worked with different financial institutions, so some would have exemptions. This is the perspective we take in terms of regulation. As for influencers, it's not just for virtual assets or digital assets. When it is related to investments or market activities, we often see involvement of influencers. It's not just for virtual assets. Financial influencers will be regulated in future, and I will let the SFC representative talk about the specifics. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member, for the questions. Like the Acting Secretary said, we're moving along several directions. We have had effective cooperation with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. So with the regulation of stable coins, we'll just make use of existing arrangements to prevent duplication of regulation. As said in the paper, for stablecoin related activities, if regulation is already covered in the stablecoins ordinance, we will not impose regulation on top of that. We will make sure to communicate with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority to make sure there's no gap in regulation, but we don't want to impose excessive regulation on the sector either. As for financial influencers, as the Acting Secretary said, when financial influencers are promoting certain products or services, it's not just virtual assets. It may be for other forms of investment. We adopt the approach of same business, same risks, same regulation. Whether those individuals identify themselves as financial influencers, we would regulate them as long as they involve themselves in regulated activities. But we also understand that financial influencers are something relatively new. So we have been working with the sector to see if we have new regulatory arrangements for this new form of business, for example, issuing of licenses or enhancement of relevant arrangements. It's not just about tackling this new normal. We want to work with the market to mitigate relevant risks and try to strike a balance between managing risks and seizing new opportunities. Thank you, Ms. Kamen Khan. Thank you, Chair. Since we started talking about the regulation of virtual asset trading platforms, I have been calling for a full workflow regulation, and I'm glad that we will soon see legislative amendments promulgated. We need to have a regulated marketplace because I think the benefits brought about will be greater than those brought about by an unregulated, unlicensed market. We need to regulate both the good people and the unscrupulous individuals. What's good about issuing licenses? We need to tell people that, and I think many in the sector agree, there are great benefits in obtaining the relevant licenses. I want to raise another question that echoes the point on influencers. We do see influencers on different platforms expressing their views. Will we be regulating the platforms as well? I guess we're always seeking room for improvement. I understand you're already trying to regulate influencers. What can we do about regulation of platforms, or are you going to focus more on investor education, or are you going to work on both? Thank you. Acting Secretary, thank you. I'll answer the first question and then I'll invite the SFC representative to answer the second question. As the member said, if we have a clear direction for the development of digital assets, it will instill confidence in the market. It will also attract large-scale and sustainable organizations to come to Hong Kong for development. And in fact, after we have issued 2 policy statements, we have seen enterprises thinking the Hong Kong market is very transparent and is predictable in terms of asset regulation, that they can invest in the market in the long term. That has instilled confidence in them, and that will benefit development of the market in the long term. That's also why we have seen many digital asset and Web3 companies settle in Hong Kong. With regulation, investors would want to conduct business with licensed institutions that has enhanced protection for investors. It has also made transactions in the market smoother. I think, as the member said, we want to have a digital market that is responsible and sustainable, which is why it's very important to practice regulation. I will let the SFC representative answer relevant questions. Yes, Dr. Eric Yip. Thank you, member, for the question. I will supplement the acting secretary's answers with some figures to show the market's interest in us. We have provided some enhancements for existing license holders to take part in activities in digital and virtual assets. We have already issued more than 200 licenses with the existing mechanism, and we continue to see interest in acquisition of such licenses. And if we look at the data of trading platforms last year, there may be fluctuations in the value of virtual assets. We have seen an increase in trade volume. I believe the percentage is approximately 75%. And if we look at the year-on-year increase, comparing the first quarter of this year and last year, there is a threefold increase. So we can see that investors are embracing the strengths in such services in terms of custody as well as anti-money laundering. We will continue to move along this direction so that with this regulated market in the city, it will be popular among investors. As for financial influencers, as the member said, the relationship is quite complex. It's not just a regular individual with how it is related to a securities trader. Sometimes they operate across boundaries. So it's not just the SFC. Other regulatory bodies in the world face this pain point, and we are all reflecting on this. As I said earlier, we are working with this sector to get a better understanding of this new landscape, and it has led to some new challenges in regulation. I think the first thing we should focus on is to make sure we communicate with the relevant platforms. And with the platforms having such a high number of customers, they have greater responsibility. We try to first adopt a soft approach where we tell investors how good platforms can provide good quality services to them. If there are illegal acts, we can also punish such acts, although it is quite difficult. We must continue to develop our mindsets. We need to practice regulation while also interact with the sector. Thank you. Mr. Ray Wong. Thank you, Chair. We do see digital assets and virtual assets being a global trend. I appreciate the government's efforts, but right now we have different exchange shops for cryptocurrencies. That is great risk for money laundering and fraud. It is really important to have regulation to strike a balance between facilitation and risk management. We can perhaps have over-the-counter traders have some real-time trade monitoring systems, making use of big data and AI to have automated risk warnings issued to combat specifically money laundering acts. I think with credit control, we should not adopt an across-the-board approach to ban credit cards from purchasing coins. I think we should have some consumer controls to have multi-tier risk management regime to protect consumers? Thank you. Acting Secretary, thank you, Chair, thank you, Member, for the questions. The member talked about how we can make use of technology for empowerment of regulation. I think that is a good subject to explore. In Hong Kong, as at September last year, we have over 1,200 fintech companies, and we have some regtech, regulation tech companies among those, and they can really help us do better in terms of compliance. As for consumer protection, I'll let the SFC representative answer the relevant question.
I thank the member for the questions. To address the first question, well, we share the same view. We need technology to regulate technology. Therefore, in last year's policy address, there's a dedicated part about how the SFC will make use of automated technologies to establish digital asset risk assessment services. We are working with our platforms to test out the financial technology. This is a rather new technology, so we are making small steps here. We are currently working with the existing platforms. If by adopting this technology, it can help these platforms deal with risks, we believe that this kind of technology will be more widely adopted in the market. The other question is about how or whether we will allow different financial tools to be adopted in various financial activities. And this is exactly why we're proposing this regulatory regime. We hope that we can leverage our strengths in Hong Kong. We have very comprehensive regulatory regimes in place for the securities market. We hope that through our regulatory regime, we can extend the existing financial services and tools to digital asset. Mr. Duncan Chu. Thank you, Chairman. The government released policy statements 1.0 and 2.0, and our services are widely recognized by the international world. Many leading enterprises would like to obtain a license in Hong Kong. So I hope that this proposed regulatory regime can see its discussion completed within LegCo and that it could be implemented soon. Under the VA trading platform licensing regime, 6 enterprises or service providers are still waiting for their licenses, and 3 service providers are deemed to have their licenses obtained. I think people have their concerns. This is because the approval time under the trading platform licensing regime took more than a year. It could get up to 2 years. I want to know if the government would undertake to complete the approval process as early as possible. Will you need more manpower to deal with the approval procedures? Also, for this proposed regulatory regime, there will be no deeming arrangement. There are currently some trading platforms. If you do not grant them a license, how will you deal with their losses? For example, they may have signed a lease with a landlord for those brick-and-mortars platform. Will you first communicate with these platforms to avoid any disputes in the future? Secretary, on licensing, the SFC would respond to the questions. Now to supplement, under the VA trading platform licensing regimes, there are 13 licensed platforms in Hong Kong, and 6 platforms have their licenses being approved by the SFC. And The licensing regime has been quite popular in the market. We see that we're getting more applicants under the regime, and we believe that this proposed regulatory regime will become very popular too. To address the second question about the transitional arrangement, as mentioned in my opening remarks as well as in the paper, the regime will take full effect on the commencement date, and only licensed service providers will be able to provide the relevant services. We will take into consideration market response and feedback as well as how they manage to adapt to the regime as we come up with the commencement date. Yes, Dr. Eric Yip. I thank the members' questions. Over the past few years, we learned a lot on granting licenses for service providers. We have accumulated more experiences now, and we may become more efficient as we approve licenses in the future. We've looked at the situations in other places outside Hong Kong. It's not the case that more licenses being granted the merrier. We have to look at the capacity of the market. Also, we have to safeguard service quality. So we have to look at this from two perspectives. If we can attract quality participants into the market, in theory, we should be able to gain more experiences. However, we're also worried that there are service providers who failed to get a license in other places and try to get one in Hong Kong. So I hope that you can be confident with the SFC. In terms of the number of licenses we issue, we may not be able to please or satisfy everyone. However, we do want to make sure that we have a quality VA market in Hong Kong so as to ensure sustainable development of digital assets. Now, turning to our transitional arrangement, we do not plan to grant a deeming arrangement. There are over 200 service providers that are interested in providing the relevant services, and they are currently providing the services through the existing licensing regime. So we are providing an additional pathway for those who would like to provide services. As we take forward or implement the new proposed regime, we do not want market players or service providers to give an excuse that they do not have pathways to do so. Next, Mr. Holden Chow. Currently, about 13 VA trading platforms get their license under the licensing regime. We had a discussion here about what kind of framework we should put in place. We agreed that we should do it step by step, and I remember this discussion very clearly. Now that we are taking a further step, we currently have 13 trading platforms that get a license. If we are to further popularize the service, for platforms that deal with transactions that involve virtual assets, will the institutions or organizations concerned have to apply for a license? Well, my question is, according to your information, is the market keen about the proposed regulatory regime? I ask this question because, according to the paper, any platforms that would like to provide the relevant services still have to get a license. So these platforms will have to think about whether they want to deal with transactions that involve virtual asset. if they decide to run such businesses, they'll have to get a license and compliance costs will be incurred. So I want to know, based on your information, how does the market respond to the proposed regime? If you're asking service providers to get a license and they feel hesitant about it, I would like to know what their responses are. Secretary, I thank the member for the questions. Perhaps the SFC can tell members about the market feedback they have collected. And to share with you some information, we're talking about 4 regulatory regimes today. On VA transaction services, as at May this year, currently there are 84 licensed corporations in Hong Kong that are providing VA transaction services through consolidated accounts. Some of them provide services for retail clients. As for VA custodian services, in Hong Kong, there are currently 13 licensed VA trading platforms, under which there are 13 corresponding TCSP licenses. So they are associated platforms that provide custodian services. We also noticed that some 20 such TCSP organizations provide relevant services. The other regime is about advisory services. As at May this year, in Hong Kong, there are 74 licensed corporations that provide VA advisory services. Lastly, about management services, as at the end of May this year, in Hong Kong there are 63 licensed corporations that provide VA asset management services. So you see that different organizations and institutions have been making use of the existing regime to provide the relevant services. Now I will defer to the SFC to give an overall response. SFC, regarding how keen the market has been, we have been in talks with the relevant sector after the consultation. We have talked to over 40 organizations about the proposed licensing regime. You mentioned there might be transactions that involve virtual assets. Mostly payment service providers would like to obtain a license. We suggest that they first get a license from the SFC, then they can get an uplift so that they can carry on transactions that involve virtual assets. And once the proposed regime is in place, we can issue the relevant license to them. So far, they support the regime. Mr. Alan Chen. In accordance with MICA, since its establishment in 2024, there's been significant adjustment to the stable coin market. In November 2025, MICA crypto asset account for 90.6% of the total transactions. As for non-regulated crypto asset transaction, they only account for 9.4%. Some studies said MICA help ensure stability. However, the stability in the euro market is still less than that of the US market. I have 2 questions. How can our stable coin regime ensure that it won't be overly secure to lose market competitiveness? As we combat international anti-money laundering, how can we come up with a flexible interface regime to make sure that stable coins can actually be made use of in the payment market? Also, market players are concerned that to comply with the regulatory regime, they have to obtain multiple licenses, and that incurs substantial compliance costs. Will the SFC establish a mutual recognition or bilateral mechanism with major economies in the world to reduce the compliance costs of licensed organizations? Secretary. First, on stablecoins, we know that there are 2 stablecoin issuers that have obtained the relevant license. They are taking forward the preparatory work, such as building their tech platforms and testing out their systems. They are in close communication with the HKMA. We believe that these 2 stablecoin issuers will, within this year, officially commence their businesses. As for their business plans, as well as application scenarios, they have been in close communication with us about the plan. In order to foster their businesses, we, together with the HKMA, will be in close communication. We will provide advice and support to them. As for the overall development of fintech as well as stablecoins, we can save it for the next item. We can elaborate when we come to the next item. The member is right that we have made reference to various international regulatory bodies, such as FATF as well as SFB. If there is interface between our regime and other regimes in the international world, then organizations can adapt to our rules and regulations, and that could help reduce their compliance costs.
Due to time constraints, I will just give some simple comments. I do not need a response from the administration. As other members said, with the legislative exercise, we need to really show people there is value to the licenses. There are benefits to holding the relevant licenses. Unlike some online platforms or those who are giving commentary on stocks, that they would have more flexibility while they're actually doing something illegal. Some may even operate across boundaries. That is, they are not located physically in Hong Kong. We continue to see innovation and development of assets. I think at an appropriate time, we need to review the definition of virtual assets, because right now, perhaps the definition is a little too narrow. We need to make sure Hong Kong Monetary Authority won't have regulation that overlaps in scope with other regulatory operators. We need to make sure future legislative work can plug the loopholes and not make it hard for people to do business with too stringent requirements. With the retailization of businesses, we need to expand institutional applications. I think these are what we can do in future. This is just me sharing my observations. I hope the administration notes them. I would like to thank representatives from the administration and SFC for attending this meeting. As said in paragraph 31 of the paper, the administration is formulating the relevant legislative proposals to introduce an amendment bill into LegCo within this year. Are there any objections from members? If not, we will move along this direction. We thank the public officers for attending the discussion of the relevant item. Let's move on to the next agenda item number 6. Development of fintech in Hong Kong. The acting secretary is staying behind. Let's invite other representatives from the administration and other bodies to come inside the conference room. Members who wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. Welcome. representatives from the FSTB, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, SFC, Insurance Authority, Oases, Invest Hong Kong, Accounting and Financial Reporting Council, MPFA, as well as those from the Cyberport and Science Park. In attending this meeting, I will first ask the acting secretary to give a presentation. Chair, members, today I'm here along with representatives from the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, SFC, Insurance Authority, AFRC, MPFA, OACs, as well as Invest Hong Kong and the Cyberport and Science Tech Parks here today to brief members on the latest developments and measures of fintech and Web3 in Hong Kong. We have seen quite good progress. As at September, we have a significant increase in the number of relevant enterprises in Hong Kong. We have approximately a 10% increase from 2024. We rank first in global indices for fintech. We adopt a multi-pronged approach to promote development of fintech. I will just talk about the salient points of the measures set out in the paper. In terms of financial infrastructure, the People's Bank of China worked with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority to have Payment Connect launch in June last year to provide real-time cross-boundary payment services that are highly efficient. AI is also a trend in fintech. In August in 2024, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority worked with the Cyberport to launch an AI sandbox. And in October last year, phase 2, the second phase of the initiative was launched to have AI versus AI and promote more responsible use of AI in the banking sector. In March this year, the Hong Kong MA, SFC, and other bodies worked together to expand price coverage to banking, securities, asset market, asset management, insurance, MPFA, store value facilities applications. In terms of green fintech, in June of last year, we announced a blueprint, and in 2025, we have provided different services to practitioners. We now also have a pilot scheme to nurture relevant talents. We have over 870 practitioners taking relevant courses. We also have two-way internship arrangements. We have now over 120 students interning at around 30 fintech enterprises in 5 rounds of internship schemes. This will help us nurture talents in fintech. We are also actively trying to deepen ties with the mainland and overseas. We have been trying to enhance the different cross-boundary network projects for CBDC. In June last year, we issued the policy statement on development of digital assets 2.0 to showcase our vision to build a trusted, innovative digital asset ecosystem. We adopt the principle of same activity, same risk, same regulation, and will continue to enhance a regulatory regime that takes into account local circumstances and align with international standards. We are one of the first jurisdictions providing a clear development direction for retail traditional financial products making use of Web3. We have a retail money market fund, a retail gold investment product, and a gold ETF launch. We have the scale of investments reaching approximately 10.8 billion Hong Kong dollars. The government continues to be a pioneer. In Q4 of last year, for the third time, we issued tokenized green bonds, and the scale is unrivaled in the world. In February last year, the SFC launched the Aspire roadmap and various measures to enhance security and innovation for the digital asset market. That's it for my presentation. The other representatives and I are more than willing to answer members' questions. Thank you. Let me first extend the meeting by 15 minutes because we were supposed to adjourn the meeting by 12:30. Let me read out the order in which members are going to speak. Mr. Ray Wang, Ms. Carmen Khan, Mr. Chen Chen-ying, Mr. Holden Chow, Mr. Chen Pui-lin, Mr. Alan Chan, Mr. Ray Wang. Thank you, Chair. As a representative of the industrial sector, I very much support developing digital financial economy, but we want to make sure technology empowers a real economy. We have some trade financing restrictions that has really formed a barrier in doing so. Right now, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority and SFC issued guidelines that are more in principle. It is hard for enterprises to really transform them into standards. I think we can look to Singapore's Mass Characters project to have the principles be fair, concrete targets, and they can have a specific template for the sector to follow. We also have the IP financing sandbox, and in Q3 we'll have IP valuation support pilot arrangements. But these are short-term measures. It cannot really resolve the difficulties faced by banking right now. So I hope the government can look to Singapore's ITF framework to have standardized disclosure of intangible assets so that it is easier for investors to grasp the relevant situation. Thank you. Acting Secretary, thank you. I will give brief reply and then I'll let the relevant representatives answer the specific questions. We have the commercial data interchange to help SMEs obtain financial services. And let me give you some data. As at March this year, we have already 27 banks and 17 data providers participate in the arrangements, facilitating over 95,000 loan applications and related approval. We have issued a high amount of credit with such applications. This showcases how much importance we're attaching to making use of technology to empower our SMEs in financing. I will now let the Hong Kong MA representative supplement my answers. Thank you. Chair, thank you, member, for the questions. On development of AI, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority provides some in-principle guidance. We have the generative AI sandbox as a member mentioned for us to get a better understanding of how developments of AI work in the area. We have afterwards issued a series of detailed guidance to the sector. For example, for enterprises to work with Cyberport, say if enterprises want to work with banks to have AI products, we have clearer and more practical guidance. We already have some guidance principles, but we also talk about some points to note with development of AI or risk management or compliance related guidance. We hope in different areas we can provide practical guidance. Under FinTech 2030 of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, we have a blueprint for promotion of FinTech. Some are related to AI or frontier technologies, some toolkits that would include with the International Settlement Bank how to develop AI models. We have some explainability toolkits. we will see how we can transform different requirements into tools. We will continue to work with the sector and Cyberport and the tech industry in general to see how we can support the sector with developments in AI. Thank you. Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm very glad that Hong Kong ranks first in terms of fintech. It is thanks to the efforts of the relevant bodies and the officers in attendance here today. My first question is, with the promotion of fintech, we need the whole government working on this to, for example, facilitate the operations of commercial data interchange. We have some very nice figures of the outcomes of CDI, but we need more authorization relating to exchange of data sets. The company's registry and the lens registry have yet to join the commercial data interchange. That is not ideal. The government actually has an AI efficacy enhancement team. So the government is committed to enhancing efficiency of technological application in the government. I want to ask whether we can also include the judiciary to see if certain applicants are involved in some litigation proceedings. I also want to ask, we have a MPFA representative here today. We have all 24 schemes joining EMPF. What have you done in terms of security? Also, with the digital uptake rate, it's not just about having those who are using it. You need to make sure there are more people registering for EMPF. Digital uptake rate is just about registered users. Thank you.
Secretary, I thank the member for the questions and the suggestion. For the question about EMPF, I'll ask the MPF Schemes Authority to respond. We agree that the commercial data interchange should be used as a kind of infrastructure to facilitate financing for SMEs. One of the points is about how to encourage more people to use commercial data interchange. We're currently enabling the company's registry and the land registry to obtain information and data from the government through the consented data exchange gateway. We're working with the relevant bureaus and departments to see how we can expand the application scope of the consented data exchange gateway. Yes, MPF Schemes Authority. In April, the EMPF platform was fully launched. We have a 24/7 network that helps monitor the platform. As for the digital uptake, we have a contract with the contractor. Within 1 year, the usage rate has to reach 50%, and within 5 years' time, the usage rate will have to reach 90%. As at April, the usage rate has reached near 80%. As for the registration rate, we currently have employers as well as scheme members using the platform. The registration rate of employers, and we have 4 million schemes members, and they cover a wide range of areas. We have deployed mobile vehicle teams to promote the platform, and also in individual districts, we organize events and activities to reach out to members of the public. We hope that more people will register to use the EMPF platform. We also have an outreach team. I want to know what measures will be put in place to boost the digital uptake. Do you have the registration rate? Yes, the registration rate of employers stands at 74%. For scheme members, the registration rate is 39%. These are two separate sets of figures. For employers, the registration rate is higher because we have 300,000 employers, and for scheme members, we have 4.9 million of them, and the registration rate is 39%. Mr. Ronick Chen, I have two questions. Fintech development is doing quite well in Hong Kong. However, we have to still work harder on promoting the use of eCNY. There are newspaper reports about my views today. I know that there are more merchants making use of eCNY, and they are using eCNY for transactions. So I want to know, apart from making use of eCNY in local retail merchants, will the government consider collecting fees through the use of eCNY? That way, you can boost the usage rate as well as incentives for people to use eCNY wallets. Now, turning to talent, we need talent to develop fintech. We need to bring in talent as well as cultivate local talent. In terms of bringing in talent, you have to pay attention to the figures. Over the past 7 years, there were only 126 relevant professionals brought into Hong Kong, according to last year's report. For local talent, there are 870 of them. And over the past year, there are 310 of them. So we have 100,000 banking practitioners in Hong Kong, and that's not a big percentage. Have you reviewed the reasons why there are not enough talents? Is it because of a lack of subsidies or a lack of publicity efforts? How will you encourage more local practitioners to join your training courses? Secretary, I thank the member for the questions. On use cases of eCNY as well as the future development of eCNY, and the question about local practitioners, I'll ask the HKMA to elaborate. But before that, I'd like to make 2 points. First, the member just now cited some figures concerning fintech talent. Some of them are brought into Hong Kong through admission schemes. Some of them have attended local training programs. We have about 2,000 fintech companies in Hong Kong as at last September. In various securities firms as well as banks, there are also fintech talent working within those institutions. So there are actually way more fintech talent in Hong Kong. So we have to bring in such talent and at the same time cultivate local talent. There are actually more fintech talents in our talent pool, just for members' information. On trainings for practitioners, my colleagues will supplement. We are currently putting in place many schemes. For example, we have a GBA training scheme, and the Banking Association in Hong Kong is also one participant of the scheme. We want to make sure that there is mutual recognition of qualifications in place so that practitioners in Hong Kong can get the qualifications quickly in the mainland so that they can do relevant jobs in the mainland. HKMA, I'll respond to the question about eCNY. eCNY is an additional option that is secure and convenient for members of the public in Hong Kong for cross-boundary payment. It is to enhance users' experience. We have been working with the People's Bank of China to see how we can expand the usage of eCNY in Hong Kong. One example is that eCNY wallet has been linked to the FPS system in Hong Kong, and banks using eCNY has increased from 17 to 19. We are working with the People's Bank of China to see how we can roll out upgraded arrangements for the use of eCNY. It is only by upgrading the eCNY wallets that we can expand their functions, such as person-to-person remittance or transaction. Well, all these would involve identity verification, and in order to expand such use cases, we have to deal with all these with the People's Bank of China. Yes, Secretary. In terms of the mutual recognition scheme with fintech, it is a Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Macau practitioner scheme. As for the subsidy for local fintech practitioners, we are currently operating the scheme. We will review the popularity of the scheme and see how we can make adjustments to make sure that the scheme can yield effects. I will extend the meeting until the 3 members who are waiting to speak have spoken. Mr. Holden Chow, I have 2 questions. First on EMPF. I see that there is more manpower working on promoting the EMPF platform. There are booths and counters that help promote the scheme. We need more effort because we need to cover more citizens, and citizens need frontline staff to help deal with any questions they come across as they use the EMPF platform. So yes, we have to take care of the needs of EMPF users. Second, about tokenization. According to the paper, the HKMA has launched the Ensemble project. I was told by members of the relevant industry that we have talked about tokenized assets for a long time. For complex IP rights, if they can be tokenized, it can really help SMEs raise funds, especially for medium-sized enterprises. If they're able to tokenize their IP asset, it could help them broaden their financing channels. I understand that the HKMA has been working on this, but I'd just like to take the opportunity to stress that this is the direction we should take. Tokenization is not very common yet in Hong Kong. If we can tokenize the asset of enterprises, it could be helpful with their cash liquidity, and it could help them obtain mortgage as well as raise funds. Administration. In the interest of time, I'll give a quick response. The first question about EMPF, the member is right. Education and publicity are crucial, and the MPF Schemes Authority will carry on with their effort. As for tokenization, as mentioned in our policy statement 2.0, we attach importance to tokenization. The SAR government is the first government in the world that issued tokenized bonds 3 years ago. There are tokenized funds, tokenized gold investment products, as well as tokenized bonds in Hong Kong. And we have also rolled out a subsidy scheme that subsidized the issuance of tokenized bonds. As for RWA, real-world assets tokenization, there are various projects underway in Hong Kong. I'll ask the Cyberport to share their thoughts. Like the member said, we hope tokenization can contribute to real economic development in Hong Kong. Cyberport. Last year, we rolled out a blockchain and digital asset pilot scheme, and the scheme has been very well received. We have subsidized some trial projects. We see that the sector has been very concerned about the development of real-world assets. Tokenization has been used in financing projects of telecommunication companies. There are also SMEs that use tokenization for their entertainment and show businesses. They use tokenization to raise funds for organizing concerts.
Mr. Chen Pui-Leung. Thank you, Chair. Paragraph 13 of the paper says the Insurance Authority in August 2025 talked about making use of their resources and tried to enhance the use of AI in the insurance sector. We have 7 enterprises joining the relevant arrangements. When will there be a milestone set by the Insurance Authority of this scheme? For the larger insurers, they will be fine. For the small and medium-sized insurers, they may not have enough resources for the use of AI. Will you provide specific support to the small and medium-sized insurers? Thank you. I'll let the IA representative answer the relevant question. Thank you, Chair. After launching the relevant scheme for the promotion of AI, we have done some surveys. We found that about 20% of the motor companies, they have invested in the use of AI. For small and medium-sized insurers, they don't know how to go about doing it, which is why we have engaged 7 enterprise participants. They need to make a pledge to Hong Kong in the use of AI. It has to become It has to help Hong Kong become a hub for research and development of AI solutions. They also need to allocate resources for the 70-80% of AI enterprises so as to share their AI solutions. We also ask participants to take part in some matching activities we have for service providers as well as the enterprises. We also organize events ourselves to host different events to showcase the latest developments in AI. In the near future, we will showcase achievements of the particular participants at the Cyberport in the middle of this month. We will hold a conference. Thank you. Mr. Alan Chen, thank you, Chair. I would first like to congratulate the government in that Hong Kong continues to rank first in fintech in the global financial centers index, but we are also worried about the Sino-US relations and cross-boundary security issues. We have the quantum corridor. going over 12,000 kilometers, covering different locations in the country, including the important economic circles in the country. So basically, these circles are connected in the country. How can we connect to the country's quantum communication network so as to realize high-level security for cross-boundary data? Thank you. Acting Secretary, thank you. Chair, thank you, member, for the questions. We attach great importance to financial security and data privacy and protection, which is why different regulatory bodies in Hong Kong have different guidelines and requirements in the relevant areas. We do want to work with the mainland, but we have to respect the fact that we are two different jurisdictions. With this, we can perhaps enhance exchanges and cooperation. We have been working with the central authorities to see how we can make use of the latest technologies of the country to construct an even better ecosystem. In fact, what the member said may not only involve finances. If it involves the whole information network between the mainland and Hong Kong, it may involve other departments. We will continue to work hard with other departments and with the central authorities on this. Thank you. Thank you for your attendance. Moving on to the 7th agenda item. Any other business? Is there any other business? If not, meeting adjourned. Thank you.